Chapter 724. Seeing the terrifying sword light, Yi Fan's expression changed slightly. He had no choice but to summon his natal spiritual sword and circulate his spiritual qi to the maximum. Two dazzling sword lights collided with a loud bang. A terrifying buzzing sound resounded, and the earth faintly trembled. The people within a radius of more than 10 miles were all shocked by this huge commotion. They felt as if an earthquake had occurred. At the center of the collision, a terrifying storm swept out. It destroyed everything in its surroundings as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. The door of Wu Xingtian's residence and some of the thick walls were flattened. Chu Tian and Yi Fan grunted at the same time. Although Chu Tian was only at Qi Refinement Level 9, his combat power had increased tremendously with the primordial sword. Yi Fan was at Foundation Building Level 1 and had just cultivated his natal spiritual sword. However, compared to the primordial sword, it was still a far cry. Both of them did not gain any advantage in this fight. I don't even know you. There must be a misunderstanding. Tell me what happened. Yi Fan realized that Chu Tian was a tough nut to crack. He did not want to continue fighting with him. He wanted to clarify the situation and settle the matter. However, Chu Tian was so angry that he did not give Yi Fan much time to speak after seeing Jiang Yun being defiled. Before Yi Fan could finish his sentence, Chu Tian raised his sword and attacked again. Yi Fan could have chosen to run away and ignore Chu Tian. However, he was the profound heaven celestial lord. If he was not in a life-and-death situation, he would not run away. Yi Fan braced himself and fought with Chu Tian. However, Yi Fan felt that it was strange. Hence, he did not kill Chu Tian. This caused the conflict to become more intense. Hence, he was more on the defensive. Hence, he was a little restrained during the fight. However, Chu Tian was different. He was determined to kill Yi Fan. He was risking his life by fighting with Yi Fan. Although Yi Fan's cultivation was strong, he was at a disadvantage in this situation. However, he would lose if he kept defending. Chu Tian seized an opportunity and injured Yi Fan's arm. Blood flowed out from Yi Fan's arm and dyed the ground red in the blink of an eye. At the same time, the primordial sword's chaotic sword qi invaded Yi Fan's body and corroded his spiritual qi. No matter how calm Yi Fan was, he was enraged. When had the profound heaven celestial venerable ever been in such a difficult situation? He had endured everything, but Chu Tian's every move wanted to take his life. That sword strike, just now, had almost cut off one of his arms. You, search, die. Yi Fan's eyes were filled with killing intent. First, he sealed the chaotic sword qi in his body. Then, he held his natal spiritual sword and charged at Chu Tian. Chu Tian was also not afraid of death as he fought with Yi Fan. The two of them did not hold back at all. After exchanging blows for dozens of breaths of time, both of them had consumed a lot of energy. But Chu Tian had no intention of retreating. Yi Fan was invaded by the Hongmeng sword's chaotic sword qi, and his spiritual qi was constantly being depleted. He understood that if he continued to waste time with Chu Tian, it would be disadvantageous for him, so he wanted to quickly end the battle. While Chu Tian was pushed back, Yi Fan stood in the air and injected his remaining spiritual qi into his natal spiritual sword. A terrifying aura began to accumulate rapidly. Even Chu Tian, who had been blinded by anger, regained some of his rationality at this moment. However, Chu Tian had no intention of retreating. He also channeled his remaining spiritual energy into the Hongmeng sword. The originally dim Hongmeng sword glowed brightly once again. At this moment, Wu Xingtian suddenly rushed over to the side of Yi Wuhan and the Yin Dragon army. Yi Wuhan thought that the battle between Yi Fan and Chu Tian had caused such a huge commotion. Naturally, he rushed over with the Yin Dragon army. However, the aftermath of the battle was too terrifying. Yi Wuhan knew very well that if he rushed over, he might die if he was hit by the aftermath. So, he did not dare to approach. He only stood on a high ground and watched the battle with the Yin Dragon army. What's going on? Wu Xingtian was stunned and confused as he asked Yi Wuhan. I don't understand either. Yi Wuhan also shook his head blankly. I don't know where this expert came from, but he suddenly started fighting with Yi Xiantian. After replying, Yi Wuhan asked, "Master, where did you go?" Yi Wuhan was still wondering why his master did not appear with such a huge commotion. I discovered that Yagyu Ichiro had sneaked into my house, so I sensed his aura and chased after him. Unfortunately, I lost him, Wu Xingtian said regretfully. Then, Wu Xingtian looked at the battle and locked his gaze on Chu Tian. Master, that Yi Xiantian is really unfathomable. He's only at the 21st Heaven Saint realm, but he has so many powerful techniques. He's not weaker than you, Master. Yi Wuhin said some of the information he had gathered from watching the battle. Wu Xingtian had long felt that Yi Xiantian was not simple. After hearing his disciple's words, he was not surprised. He only looked at the person opposite Yi Xiantian in shock. This person is fighting with Yi Xiantian, and he's not defeated? Wu Xingtian was shocked. I don't know where this person is from, but he's not weaker than Yi Xiantian, Yi Wuhin said. Looking at this person, he shouldn't be an outsider. He seems to be from the Yin country. If we're in danger, with the help of these two people, we don't have to be afraid of the outsiders. Wu Xingyun was a little agitated. We can't let them continue fighting. No matter what conflicts they have, I have to reconcile them. After saying that, Wu Xingtian turned into a ray of light and flew towards the battle in the distance. Both of you, please wait, Wu Xingyan shouted. However, at this moment, Yi Fan had accumulated enough power. He wanted to end the battle and avoid being entangled with Chu Tian. He ignored Wu Xingtian's attempt to stop him. He raised his natal spiritual sword and shouted in a low voice. A sword of separation. The terrifying sword light was hundreds of feet long, as if it could cut the world apart. At the same time, the Hongmeng sword also burst out a dazzling light. The two sword lights slashed toward each other. Wu Xingyun, who was between the two, was at the center of the firepower. Wu Xingyun only felt his scalp go numb. He did not dare to persuade them. He immediately channeled all his spiritual energy and fled. The 200-meter-long sword lights collided with each other under the shocked gazes of the surrounding spectators. In an instant, everything in the surroundings seemed to fall silent, and there was no sound at all. This silence lasted for a few seconds before it suddenly erupted. The two sword lights were so dazzling that no one could look at them directly. Everyone's vision was filled with white light. It was as if the whole world had turned into a white light. Boom! There was a terrible explosion that hurt people's eardrums. The earth seemed to tremble. After a long time, the sound finally stopped. People opened their eyes and looked at the battle in the distance again. Chapter 725. In the battle far away, smoke and dust filled the air, obscuring everyone's vision and preventing them from seeing what was happening. However, no one dared to go closer to take a look. After all, the commotion just now was too terrifying. It was like a fight between gods. Everyone held their breaths as they stared at the smoke and dust. When the smoke and dust dissipated, some scenes appeared. Wu Xingtian's mansion had already turned into a pile of rubble. On the ground, there was a sword mark that was several feet deep and hundreds of feet long. It made people feel as if the earth had been split open. On both sides of the sword mark stood two people. These two people were no doubt the initiators of the terrifying commotion. They were Chu Tian and Yi Fan. The two of them stood facing each other from a distance. No one could tell who had won. However, after a few breaths, Chu Tian's body swayed and he fell to the ground. Yi Fan's body was also swaying, but he did not fall. Yi Xiantian was the winner of this shocking confrontation. Wang Haoran, who was watching from afar, exclaimed, "The Xiantian Celestial Master is awesome." Yi Fan was indeed the reincarnation of a Celestial Master. His battle experience was not something that a hothead like Chu Tian could compare with. Although Chu Tian had a heaven-defying weapon like the Primordial Sword, he still lost to Yi Xiantian. Wang Haoran had hoped that Chu Tian and Yi Fan would die together. Then, he would clean up the mess and take the Primordial Sword. However, it was a pity that Chu Tian was still slightly weaker than Yi Fan. However, Wang Haoran was still satisfied with this outcome. He and Jiang Yun had put on a show to provoke Chu Tian and make him chase after them. They had purposely left some traces of their aura so that Chu Tian could find Wu Xingtian's mansion. Moreover, Wang Haoren had pretended to be Yagyu Ichiro to lure Wu Xingtian away to prevent him from mediating the fight. Although Yi Fan and Chu Tian did not die in this battle, both of them had suffered heavy injuries, especially Chu Tian. Chu Tian was furious for a woman. He did not care about the consequences and used the power of the primordial sword without restraint. Rather than saying that Chu Tian had lost to Yi Fan, it was better to say that Chu Tian had suffered a backlash from the primordial sword. However, since Wang Haoren could see this, Yi Fan could naturally see this as well. The reason why Yi Fan used the world separation sword was because he wanted Chu Tian to overuse the power of the primordial sword, causing the primordial sword to backfire. All in all, the profound heaven celestial venerable was slightly stronger. On the other side, Wu Xingtian looked at the house he had lived in for so many years, turned into a pile of ruins. His lips trembled. However, relatively speaking, what made Wu Xingtian more distressed was not the house. Wu Xingtian turned into a ray of light and flew in front of Yi Fan. He quickly transferred some spirit chi to him. Yi Fan's wobbly body finally stabilized. However, he was only able to stand firmly. My injuries aren't light. I need to find a place where no one will disturb me to recuperate. I'm afraid I won't be able to deal with those outsiders. Yi Fan's voice was obviously weak. Wu Xingtian almost fainted. They thought that with Yi Xuantian's help, they wouldn't be afraid of the other races. But now, this feeling of giving hope, only to have it extinguished, was truly unbearable. Why did you fight with someone for no reason? Wu Xingtian was confused. This person is crazy. He wanted to kill me when he saw me. I don't even know him. Yi Fan gritted his teeth. He was extremely depressed about this battle. Wu Xingtian was stunned. This matter isn't that simple. Maybe someone is plotting against me. I can't stay here for long. I need to find a place to recuperate. After Yi Fan calmed down, he came to a conclusion. Do you need my help? Wu Xingtian sighed and could only say so. No need. Yi Fan didn't trust anyone now. With that, Yi Fan used his last bit of spirit chi to hide his aura and quickly left the place. Wang Haoren saw this from afar. He wanted to chase after Yi Fan and assassinate him. However, for safety's sake, he controlled himself. Although Yi Fan was almost exhausted, the immortal venerable's soul was still intact. If Wang Haoren was careless, he would be discovered by Yi Fan. Wang Haoren didn't want to die together with Yi Fan. Under such circumstances, he could only retreat. But this would undoubtedly alert the enemy and arouse Yi Fan's warning. It would be more difficult to plot against Yi Fan in the future. After weighing the pros and cons, Wang Haoren dismissed the idea. Moreover, Wang Haoren was more concerned about Chu Tian. After Wu Xingtian saw Yi Fan leave, he quickly went to check on Chu Tian. Chu Tian's injuries were more serious than Yi Fan's, and he was barely breathing. Although he wouldn't die in a short time, but if he didn't do anything, Chu Tian would really die. Wu Xingtian had a good impression of the Fire Country's cultivators, and he hoped that everyone could work together to fight against the outsiders. Moreover, Wu Xingtian had seen Chu Tian's strength earlier. Wu Xingtian asked himself, if it was him against Chu Tian, his old bones would definitely fall apart. Wu Xingtian had thought that after his time was up, the Fire Country didn't have any top exponents to fight against the outsiders. But the appearance of Yi Xiantian and Chu Tian gave him hope. Wu Xingtian squatted down and immediately injected a lot of spirit energy into Chu Tian to help him stabilize his injuries. After that, he called Yi Wuhan over and asked her to seal the news and not let what happened here spread out. Yi Wuhan also understood the seriousness of the matter. If the outsiders knew that the help here was gone, they would definitely take action. Yi Wuhan suddenly had a bad premonition. But at this juncture, worrying was useless, and she could only try her best to seal the news. Wu Xingtian brought the unconscious Chu Tian to the nearest Flame Dragon Army stronghold, ready to treat Chu Tian's injuries. Wang Haoren quietly left the place, and then turned back, pretending to be attracted by the huge commotion here. When Yi Wuhan saw Wang Haoren, she immediately went up to him. What happened here? Wang Haoren looked at the mess in the distance and asked Yi Wuhin in confusion. The battle between Yi Xiantian and an unknown exponent caused this. Wu Xingtian had instructed her to seal the news, but Yi Wuhin didn't think that Wang Haoren was an outsider, so she naturally wouldn't hide it. Moreover, Wang Haoren was already here. Even if she didn't say anything, he would probably be able to guess it. Oh, Wang Haoren pretended to be surprised. Who won and who lost? Yi Xiantian won by a small margin, and the unknown exponent lost. But Yi Fan's condition didn't look good, and it wasn't easy for him to win. Yi Wuhan explained, and then said with both joy and worry, "For the time being, you don't have to worry about Yi Xiantian finding trouble with you." Yi Wuhan was overjoyed because Yi Xiantian wouldn't be able to take revenge on Wang Haoren for the time being, and worried because Yi Xiantian couldn't even take care of himself and couldn't provide any help to the Fire Country. If the outsiders came, they would be in big trouble. Chapter 726. When Wang Haoren saw Yi Wuhan's expression, he could guess what she was thinking. Actually, I'm not afraid of Yi Xiantian at all. It doesn't matter if he's injured or not. It doesn't affect me at all, Wang Haoren said. Yi Wuhan had just witnessed the battle and had a new understanding of Yi Xuantian's strength. Therefore, she thought that Wang Haoren only said that because he wanted to save face. There was another possibility, which was that even Wang Haoren himself didn't know how powerful Yi Xiantian was now. That was why he was so confident. Yi Wuhan didn't say anything. She just squeezed out a smile and pretended to believe him. You don't have to worry. I'll deal with those outsiders. I won't let them do anything rash, Wang Haoren said again. Okay, but you have to be careful too. Do what you can, Yi Wuhan said worriedly. Wang Haoren looked up at the stars and moon in the sky. He seemed to think that the scenery was pretty good. Are you free? Let's go for a walk together. Yi Wuhan wanted to refuse. After all, her master had just told her to block the news. She was really busy now, but on second thought, it wasn't easy for Wang Haoren to invite him. This kind of opportunity was hard to come by. If he refused, Wang Haoren might ignore him next time. Okay, but wait a moment. I need to tell my subordinates something. Yi Wuhan thought of a compromise. Although she had to block the news, she didn't need to do it personally. Her subordinates would do it for her. She was only here to oversee things. Leaving this place wouldn't affect her much. Wang Haoren nodded at Yi Wuhan. Yi Wuhan hurried to tell her subordinates something. After that, she immediately returned to Wang Haoren's side. The two left this place and strolled along a path under the moon. Yi Wuhan's heart was rippling. She was a little nervous and didn't say anything along the way. Wang Haoren invited her to take a walk, which naturally made her imagination run wild. There's no one here. It's convenient to talk about business. When they reached a quiet place, Wang Haoren suddenly broke the silence. Yi Wuhan was startled. Do you have something to discuss with me? That's right. There were too many people watching just now, so it was a little inconvenient. That's why I found an excuse, Wang Haoren explained. Yi Wuhan was secretly disappointed, but he quickly pulled himself together and asked seriously, What do you want to tell me? I'm ashamed to say this, Wang Haoren first sighed, then immediately continued. I have many beauties by my side, but after meeting Missy for the first time, I couldn't forget her. This time, a large part of the reason why I came to the imperial capital with Suin and Nanji was to meet Missy. I know it may be rude, but I still want to ask, is Missy willing to stay with me forever? Yi Wuhan had been waiting for Wang Haoren to get down to business, but he hadn't expected to hear such words. This really shocked Yi Wuhan. This is serious business. Yi Wuhan was stunned. Marriage is a major event. Isn't it serious business? Wang Haoren asked back. It's a major event. It's also a private matter. Right now, I'm really... Yi Wuhan wanted to say something, but stopped. Forgive me for offending you. Since Missy doesn't want to talk about private matters now, then just pretend that I didn't say these words. Wang Haoren looked sad. From now on, I will definitely dispel such thoughts. I will only treat Missy as a friend. I will never have any rude thoughts again. Hearing this, Yi Wuhan was anxious. She hurriedly said, Since you said it, how can you pretend that you didn't say it? What does Missy mean? Wang Haoren asked. Actually, I'm the same. I fell in love with you at first sight. After returning to the imperial capital, I couldn't forget you. I even decided that in this life, I will only marry you in this life. Yi Wuhan lowered her head shyly and whispered. Wang Haoran held her chin and made her raise her head. Then, he slowly moved his head closer to her with deep affection. Yi Wuhan's rationality told her that she shouldn't think about these things now, let alone do them. However, rationality was no match for emotion. Yi Wuhan couldn't help but close her eyes. After a long time, the two of them separated. Yi Wuhan's face was red. She felt sweet in her heart, but at the same time, she felt guilty. With her status, she shouldn't have cared about private matters at this juncture. This feeling of guilt also came from this. However, Yi Wuhan really couldn't refuse. Wang Haoran and Yi Wuhan continued to walk under the moon for a while. When their feelings were strong, they would occasionally continue to interact with each other. When it was close to midnight, Wang Haoran and Yi Wuhan finally said goodbye. Wang Haoran didn't return to Mu Nanji's house. Instead, he changed into Yagyu Ichiro's appearance and went to a foreign contact point outside the capital with the memory he had obtained from Yagyu Ichiro. He then sent a message. After Wang Haoran stayed at the contact point for a while, he soon sensed an aura approaching. However, he didn't show it on the surface, because with Yagyu Ichiro's ability, he shouldn't have discovered this. Soon, many enchanting beauties appeared in Wang Haoran's field of vision. These beauties were extremely seductive. They put on an indecent posture and even hugged Wang Haoran. Some of Wang Haoran's thoughts were quickly aroused. However, he knew that these were just illusions. However, he naturally had to pretend to be a pervert like Yagyu Ichiro, so he had no choice but to sink into it. Then, at the critical moment when Yagyu Ichiro was about to do something, the illusions around him disappeared instantly. There was a burst of giggling, and an enchanting beauty with a slender waist walked slowly into the room. Lord Qianhe, you don't have to joke with me like this every time, do you? Wang Haoran tidied up his indecent clothes and said gloomily to the enchanting woman in Japanese. This woman was another expert on the heaven list from Japan, Qianhe Jini. Ranked second on the heaven list, Qianhe Jini's status and strength were much higher than Yagyu Ichiro's, who ranked 8th on the heaven list. Weren't you very happy just now? Qianhe Jini suddenly showed an inexplicable smile. Men are all cheap. Wang Haoran cursed one of Qianhe Jini's close relatives in his heart, but he said with a smile, Lord Qianhe, you're right. After Qianhe Jini's arrival, other experts from foreign clans arrived one after another. Including Qianhe Jini and Yagyu Ichiro, there were a total of 7 people, all of whom were top 10 experts on the heaven list. Except for Wu Xingtian, who ranked 1st on the heaven list, Long Qianshan, who ranked 9th on the heaven list, and Yi Xiantian, who ranked 10th on the heaven list, the rest of the top 10 experts on the heaven list were all here. Yagyu Ichiro, why did you suddenly send us an urgent message and ask us to come here? What's the matter? If you waste my time, I'll twist your head off, the expert from Country M with werewolf blood suddenly said. Wang Haoran resisted the urge to slap the white-skinned man to death. I got some very important information in the city. Are you going to find a woman? Or are you going to ask for information? The expert from Country M had heard a little about Yagyu Ichiro's conduct. Looking for a woman, Wang Haoran said. All the experts on the heaven list, including Qianhe Jini, were now looking at Yagyu Ichiro with an unfriendly look. But this woman is called Yi Wuhan. Wang Haoran showed a wretched smile. He was now in Yagyu Ichiro's appearance. Yagyu Ichiro's real appearance was very wretched, and his smile was even more wretched. Hearing Yagyu Ichiro's words, the other experts on the heaven list present were all stunned. Wang Haoran continued, I've already taken care of Yi Wuhan and coaxed her to poison Wu Xingtian. Although the poison can't kill Wu Xingtian, it can greatly affect his combat strength. Let's sneak into the capital together. Once Yi Wuhan succeeds, we'll swarm up and kill Wu Xingtian. Once Wu Xingtian is dead, I don't think I need to say more about the rest, right? Chapter 727. Hearing Wang Haoran's words, the expressions of the experts on the heaven list changed. Wu Xingtian alone had suppressed the other races to the point where they couldn't even raise their heads for over 100 years. These outsiders hated Wu Xingtian to the core. Now that Wu Xingtian was about to die, no one wanted to let go of this opportunity. If Wu Xingtian broke through the limit, it would be a disaster for these outsiders. They could only rest easy if Wu Xingtian died. Everyone present was moved by Wang Haoren's words. However, they were not fools. They did not believe Wang Haoren's words so easily. What kind of person is Yi Wuhan? How could he be so easily dealt with by you? I think it's more likely that you've been bewitched by Yi Wuhan. You've already defected to the enemy. You want to trick us and let Wu Xingtian catch us all in one fell swoop. A monk from India on the heaven roll looked deeply at Wang Haoren and said, all the experts on the heaven list, including Qianhe Zhini, stared at Yagyu Ichiro with unfriendly eyes. I have my ways to deal with women. Since you don't believe me, just pretend I didn't say anything, Wang Haoren said. It's hard for us to believe your one-sided words. Show us some substantial evidence, Qianhe Zhini said. I have evidence. If Lord Qianhe wants to see my majesty, I can show it to you. Wang Haoren smiled strangely. Qianhe Zhini frowned when he saw his wretched look, but he still said, give it to me. Bring it over. I want to have a look. Wang Haoren got up and turned on Yagyu Ichiro's phone. He opened the photos he had prepared. At first, he showed some photos taken when he and Yi Wuhan were strolling under the moon. However, Wang Haoren's face could not be seen. Only Yi Wuhan's face could be seen. Then, there were some photos that did not show the faces of the men and women, but were very shocking. These photos were not of Wang Haoren and Yi Wuhan, but of Yagyu Ichiro and other women. However, Qianhe Zhini had a preconceived notion that the man and woman in the photo were Yagyu Ichiro and Yi Wuhan. When he saw the indecent scenes, he naturally thought that they were Yagyu Ichiro and Yi Wuhan. Qianhe Zhini had never done this kind of thing before, but he had seen many such scenes. Although it was dirty to his eyes, he was still calm. The rest of the experts on the heaven roll also came over to take a look. Just like Qianhe Zhini, they thought that the man and woman were Yagyu Ichiro and Yi Wuhan. Everyone exchanged glances and began to believe Yagyu Ichiro's words. However, the powerhouse from Country M with the werewolf bloodline looked at Wang Haoren with some disdain. He glanced at a certain part of Wang Haoren's body and said mockingly, Wang Haoren, I've long heard that the men in Fusang are very short, but I didn't expect them to be so short. The powerhouse from Country M spoke in a roundabout way, but everyone present understood what he meant. Wang Haoren wanted to compete with white paper to broaden his horizons, but on second thought, he realized that Yagyu Ichiro was indeed short. Moreover, he was mocking Yagyu Ichiro, which had nothing to do with him. However, Wang Haoren, who was disguised as Yagyu Ichiro, immediately showed an angry look when he heard that. White paper? Watch your words. Shorty, I like to say that. What do you want? The powerhouse from Country M seemed to be provoking him. Wang Haoren pretended that he wanted to fight, but he suddenly deflated like a balloon and looked at Qianhe Zhini for help. This was Yagyu Ichiro's character. He bullied the weak and feared the strong. As the eighth on the heaven roll, Yagyu Ichiro was the weakest in this group of people. Qianhe Zhini hated Yagyu Ichiro, but after all, they were both from Fusang, so he chose to stand on Yagyu Ichiro's side. Therefore, he looked at the powerhouse from Country M and said, Yagyu Ichiro is just an exception. Mr. Smith, please don't insult all the men in Fusang. Hearing that, Wang Haoren mourned for Yagyu Ichiro. Although Qianhe Zhini spoke for Yagyu Ichiro, he also insulted Yagyu Ichiro severely. Wang Haoren squeezed out an awkward expression at the right time. The other experts on the scene chuckled. Seeing Qianhe Zhini's seductive look, Smith's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but say, from what Miss Qianhe said, it seems that you have seen the real abilities of many men in Fusang. But I'm sure you haven't seen the real world. Oh, Mr. Smith, do you mean the real world? Qianhe Zhini said with a charming smile. Miss Qianhe, if you'd like, let's have a competition, Smith hinted. Okay, Qianhe Zhini said and walked outside. Smith was excited and left with her. After a while, Qianhe Zhini came back with a charming smile. Smith came back later. However, there was no joy on Smith's face. Instead, there were some bruises on his face. Smith said that it was a competition, but Qianhe really wanted to have a competition with him. As the second on the heaven list, Qianhe was very powerful. Although Smith was the third on the heaven list, he could hardly fight back against Qianhe. That was why Smith's face was bruised. Guys, stop fooling around. Let's get down to business. The Indian monk looked at Yagyu Ichiro and said, Yi Wuhan is the only disciple of Wu Xingtian. I don't believe she will be easily bewitched by you. Besides the evidence just now, do you have any other evidence? To prove that Yi Wuhan is under your command now. Hearing that, the other powerhouses on the heaven list looked at Yagyu Ichiro and waited for his reply. No. However, I, Yagyu Ichiro, swear to the heavens that if I lie, I will die without a complete corpse. Wang Haoran swore in Yagyu Ichiro's name. Qianhe and the others looked at each other and felt that Yagyu Ichiro's words were not persuasive enough. Look at you guys. Obviously, you don't believe me. I spent so much effort to coax Yi Wuhan into agreeing with me. If you don't believe me, then forget it. I am afraid that it will be dangerous to besiege Wu Xingtian. Wang Haoran stood up and said obscenely, Women are more comfortable on their bellies. I don't care about Wu Xingtian anymore. You guys can do whatever you want. I don't want to stay in this damn place anymore. I'm going somewhere else. After that, Wang Haoran whistled and left. However, when Wang Haoran's back was facing the crowd, an inexplicable smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. After Yagyu Ichiro left, the others looked at each other. One of the powerhouses on the heaven list from Jiaoji looked at Qianhe and asked, Miss Qianhe, you and Yagyu Ichiro are both from Fusang. You should know him better than us. How trustworthy do you think Yagyu Ichiro's words are? Chapter 728. Yagyu Ichiro is a lecherous man. His head is full of women. I only believe half of what he says, Qianhe said. When the others heard this, they exchanged glances with each other. No one spoke first. They were all hesitant. Qianhe continued, I just sprinkled the kind of tracking powder on Yagyu Ichiro's body. It can let me know his approximate location. If what he said is true, then his next move will be traceable. Hearing this, the hesitation on everyone's faces disappeared. Smith from Country M said, That is to say, this shorty sneaked into the city to report to Yi Wuhan. If he is far away from the capital, then his words can be trusted. Smith said what was on everyone's mind, and everyone nodded in agreement. Everyone waited patiently. After a while, the monk from India asked, What's the matter? Miss Qianhe, where is Yagyu Ichiro? He is already 50 miles away from the capital. Now, he suddenly stopped somewhere. I don't know what he is doing. Qianhe sensed carefully and replied, Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up and call him back, Smith urged. The others had no objection. They didn't have a perfect plan to deal with Wu Xingtian. The only solution was to make trouble in the capital and let Wu Xingtian put out fires everywhere. But there was no way to kill Wu Xingtian. Under normal circumstances, no one was sure that they could kill Wu Xingtian if they all attacked together. All he wanted to do was to keep causing trouble until the end of Wu Xingtian's life. However, they were afraid that they would be killed by Wu Xingtian during this period. They didn't want to give up the opportunity that Yagyu Ichiro brought. After seeing everyone's reaction, Qianhe called Yagyu Ichiro with his mobile phone. After the call was made, it took a while for the other side to pick up the call. However, it wasn't Yagyu Ichiro's voice, but a woman's. Everyone's eyelids twitched when they heard the voice. But soon, they felt that it was reasonable. Come back to the stronghold immediately, Qianhe said. Master Qianhe, I'm busy. Let's talk after I'm done, Yagyu Ichiro replied. I want you to come back to the stronghold immediately. Qianhe's tone was somewhat commanding. Lady Chizuru, I can't stop now. Please wait until I'm done. Yagyu Ichiro's voice was mixed in with the woman's strange voice. Since you like women so much, I'll find you 8 or 10. Come back to the stronghold now, Qianhe said. I'm not interested in ordinary women, unless Lord Qianhe can let me. Yagyu Ichiro's obscene voice came from the phone. But before he could finish, he was interrupted by Qianhe. Do you want to die? Hee, Lord Qianhe, I was just joking. All right, I'll be right back. Following Yagyu Ichiro's character, Wang Haoran agreed after a short discussion with Qianhe. Wang Haoran hung up. At the same time, he stopped tickling the beauty beside him. "Beauty, thank you for your cooperation," Wang Haoren said to the girl who hit on him on the street. His current appearance was not Yagyu Ichiro, but his original appearance. Just a casual smile was enough to make this beautiful woman dizzy. "Handsome, were you putting on an act for others to hear?" "Actually, you don't have to," the girl said with a blushing face. "I'm touched by your enthusiasm, but I really have something to do. See you later." Wang Haoren waved his hand and quickly left. The girl wanted to chase after him, but she couldn't. After Wang Haoren left the girl's sight, he changed into Yagyu Ichiro's obscene appearance and slowly returned to the stronghold. He walked into the meeting room in the stronghold with a joyful expression. Qianhe Zhini and the others were all waiting here. "Yagyu, you're too slow." Qianhe Zhini had been waiting for a long time and was a bit impatient. When he saw Yagyu Ichiro, he scolded him. "That woman is not very pretty, so I'm a bit slow. If it was Lord Qianhe, it would have been over in an instant." Yagyu Ichiro said flirtatiously, but he stopped when he saw the murderous look in Qianhe Zhini's eyes. "We've discussed and decided to trust you," Qianhe Zhini said. "So?" Wang Haoren asked. "We'll follow your plan," Qianhe Zhini said. "I've thought about it, and it's risky. Let's forget about it. Wu Xingtian is about to die, and he doesn't have much time left," Wang Haoren said. "Don't talk nonsense. Just do what I tell you to do. We'll follow your plan and let Yi Wuhan poison him. We'll find a chance to sneak into the city. When Yi Wuhan succeeds, we'll kill Wu Xingtian together," Qianhe Zhini said. "There's one more thing. After Yi Wuhan succeeds, Lord Yagyu must kill Yi Wuhan before we take action," the Indian monk chimed in. "I agree." The Heaven Roll overlords from Jiaoji agreed. "You want such a charming woman to die? How cruel," Yagyu Ichiro said playfully. "Yagyu, you've tortured so many women to death. Yi Wuhan won't be a problem," Qianhe Zhini said. This was one of the reasons why she hated Yagyu Ichiro so much. "I haven't had enough with Yi Wuhan yet. I don't want to kill her," Wang Haoren said. "To reassure everyone, you must kill Yi Wuhan before you kill Wu Xingtian. As for your loss, I'll make it up to you," Qianhe Zhini said. "How do you plan to make it up to me, Lord Qianhe?" Wang Haoren looked interested. "Of course, I'll satisfy your longing for me." Qianhe Zhini looked at him flirtatiously. "Lord Qianhe, are you serious?" Wang Haoren looked doubtful. "There are so many people here. Everyone can testify," Qianhe Zhini said. In order to make Yagyu Ichiro do what everyone else wanted, Smith and the others immediately expressed their opinions. Wang Haoren was not a fool. He knew that Qianhe Zhini was only doing this for the sake of expediency. After everything was done, Qianhe Zhini would definitely turn hostile. He would not be able to lay a finger on her. However, Yagyu Ichiro would definitely fall for it. Yagyu Ichiro had no brain at all. Even when he thought about things, he used his lower body. "Okay, it's a deal. After Yi Wuhan poisons him, I'll kill her. Then we'll besiege Wu Xingtian and kill him," Wang Haoren said excitedly. Hearing his description, Qianhe Zhini and the others were also looking forward to it. They continued to discuss the detailed plan. Then, they opened a champagne and celebrated in advance. After that, they went back to their respective places. Chapter 729. It was midnight. After Wang Haoren left the contact point, he returned to the capital city and snuck into one of the Yin Dragon Army strongholds. The strong warriors of the other races had taken the bait. Wang Haoren only needed to wait. To Wang Haoren, dealing with the other races was secondary. What he was most concerned about was Chu Tian's primordial sword. After Wang Haoren obtained the heaven-splitting pagoda, he deeply understood the power of this heaven-defying cheat. The primordial sword was the highest grade innate treasure. Of course, he had to take it. After Wu Xingtian brought Chu Tian back to the Yin Dragon Army stronghold, he began to treat Chu Tian's injuries. He continued until now. No matter how high Wu Xingtian's cultivation was, he still used up a lot of his spiritual energy. His entire body was weak. Now that the other races were watching, Wu Xingtian knew that his current state was very disadvantageous. But Wu Xingtian was thinking on another level. He did not have the slightest confidence that he could break through his limit. Hence, He was willing to use up his spiritual energy to leave behind a glimmer of hope. Chu Tian's injuries were not light. If not treated in time, it would leave behind irreversible damage. It would seriously affect his future cultivation progress. Wu Xingtian's action was to sacrifice his spiritual energy to help Chu Tian. This would accelerate Wu Xingtian's limit. Wang Haoren secretly watched this scene. He sighed at Wu Xingtian's righteousness. But from another perspective, wasn't this Chu Tian's main character aura acting up? When a main character encountered danger, he could often turn it into safety. Chu Tian's current situation was very good proof of this point. After stabilizing Chu Tian's injuries, Wu Xingtian was exhausted. He let the Yin Dragon Army guard Chu Tian outside while he went to rest. Wang Haoren avoided everyone's eyes and quietly snuck into Chu Tian's room. At this time, Chu Tian was still unconscious. In Yi Fan's 1,000 years of experience, there were too many things that included too many things. Naturally, it included stealing other people's treasures that had not been completely integrated. In his previous life, Yi Fan had done many things like killing people and stealing their treasures. According to Yi Fan's memories, Wang Haoren successfully extracted Chu Tian's Hongmeng sword using the method Yi Fan had used. Ding! The host has taken Chu Tian's primordial sword. The reward is 30,000 villain points. Chu Tian's protagonist aura minus 1,500. The host's villain aura plus 1,500. Ding! Chu Tian has lost the primordial sword. His destiny has scattered. He has lost his main character status. Wang Haoren quickly received 2 messages and was slightly surprised. However, on second thought, he felt that it was normal. Last time, Chu Tian had narrowly missed out on the innate supreme treasure, Sky-Split Pagoda. This time, he had lost the innate supreme treasure primordial chaos sword. If he were to encounter another great opportunity in the future and obtain another innate supreme treasure of this level, then his protagonist aura would be ridiculously strong. Regardless of whether it was the heaven-splitting pagoda or the primordial chaos sword, as long as he obtained one of them, he would have a high chance of reaching the Dao integration stage. Chu Tian had obtained them one after the other. This kind of luck was already heaven-defying. Chu Tian, who had lost his status as the main character, would no longer have any luck in the future and would become an ordinary character. Even if he regained his Qi refining stage level 9, without the protection of the protagonist aura, he would only be cannon fodder. To Wang Haoren, Chu Tian was no longer a threat. Wang Haoren was too lazy to kill Chu Tian. It would only add to the trouble. After putting away the primordial chaos sword, Wang Haoren quietly left the room and went to the hotel where Jiang Yuner was. That night, Wang Haoren had secretly done many things. Now, he could finally take a breather. Jiang Yuner saw that Wang Haoren had not returned for a long time after leaving. She was a little worried, so she did not rest and waited. After Wang Haoren appeared in the room, Jiang Yuner was finally relieved. "Are you all right?" Jiang Yuner looked at Wang Haoren from head to toe and asked softly with concern. "How can I not be all right? But you, it's so late and you're still not sleeping." Wang Haoren gently pinched her face. "I was worried about you. How could I sleep?" Jiang Yuner asked with hidden bitterness. "How is it? Did it go smoothly?" "The person who had designs on you has already been taught a lesson," Wang Haoren said briefly. "That's good." Jiang Yuner nodded. "Do we still have some things to do?" Wang Haoren looked at Jiang Yuner with a smile that was not a smile. Jiang Yuner was stunned for a moment. Then, she reacted and her face instantly turned red. In order to make this scene more realistic, the two of them had made it real. However, after Chu Tian's arrival, Wang Haoren had to give up halfway and lead Chu Tian away. Whether it was Wang Haoren or Jiang Yuner, they did not feel very good. Now that the trouble was temporarily solved, of course, they had to finish what they had not finished. The next day, in order to save Chu Tian, Wu Xingtian had consumed too much qi and needed to recuperate for a period of time. After Yu Wuhan heard this, he was shocked and also felt very sad. His master did not have much time left. Now that he had consumed so much qi, It was undoubtedly speeding up his time. For a moment, he was naturally worried and sad. Wu Xingtian was more open-minded about this and did not regret doing so. If he had another chance to choose, he would still do the same. However, the only thing that worried Wu Xingtian was the sudden arrival of those foreign races. Master, I actually have a helper on my side. He might be able to help a lot, Yi Wuhan suddenly said. Previously, with Yi Xintian as a big helper, Yi Wuhan did not deliberately mention Wang Haoren. Moreover, Wu Xingtian had promised Yi Xintian that he would help him find Wang Haoren. If it was not especially necessary, Yi Wuhan did not even want Wang Haoren to appear in front of Wu Xingtian and Yi Xintian. However, the current situation had to be mentioned. Yi Wuhan did not want his master to be worried and recuperate. He also wanted to calm Wu Xingtian down by mentioning Wang Haoren. Although Yi Wuhan did not have much hope for Wang Haoren, Yi Wuhan knew that he had to believe it now. At the very least, he had to let his master believe that Wang Haoren could solve the current situation. Oh, who is it? Wu Xingtian's dim eyes brightened as he asked. He is the person I met in the demonic city, Yi Wuhan said with some embarrassment. After Wu Xingtian heard this, he immediately understood. At the same time, he was very curious. What kind of person was this man that made his disciple decide to marry no one else but him? I want to see him, Wu Xingtian said. Yi Wuhan nodded and left for a while. When he returned, there was an additional person beside him. When Wu Xingtian saw the man that Yi Wuhan brought, his old face was full of shock. He had lived for so long and had seen too many people, but this was the first time he had seen such a good-looking man. Wu Xingtian seemed to understand why his disciple had fallen for him. However, at the same time, Wu Xingtian could not help but sigh inwardly. This was because Wu Xingtian could sense that this person's cultivation was only around the 6th level of the Sage Realm. This was a far cry from Yi Xuantian's 11th level of the Sage Realm. Wu Xingtian experienced the feeling of being given hope only to be met with disappointment once again. Wuhan, I want to rest. You can leave. Wu Xingtian's heart was incomparably gloomy. He didn't want to be quiet for a while. Chapter 730. When Wang Haoren saw Wu Xingtian's reaction, he could roughly guess what he was thinking. In Wu Xingtian's opinion, a 6th Heaven Sage Realm cultivation wasn't enough to solve this crisis. However, in Wang Haoren's opinion, this level of cultivation was more than enough. He had a habit of not revealing all his trump cards. The reason why he had only revealed his 6th Heaven Sage Realm cultivation was because he felt that he could completely control the situation. After all, Wang Haoren had already seen the foreign races and knew their background. In Wu Xingtian's opinion, he had never considered the possibility of fighting someone of a higher realm. He only thought that a 6th Heaven Sage Realm was not enough. In this regard, Wang Haoren was too lazy to explain. When he heard Wu Xingtian's words, he prepared to leave with Yi Wuhan and let Wu Xingtian rest. Yi Wuhan also saw through Wu Xingtian's thoughts and stopped in his tracks. In order to ease Wu Xingtian's heart, he braced himself and said, Master, don't look down on him just because he is a 6th Heaven Sage Realm. His true strength is far beyond that. When he said this, even Yi Wuhan didn't believe it. Not to mention the others, just the second on the heaven ranking, Qian Hizheni, had a cultivation of the 13th Heaven Sage Realm. Wang Haoren was only a 6th Heaven Sage Realm cultivator. If he faced Qian Hizheni alone, he would probably be beaten to the ground, not to mention the other experts of the foreign races. Master believes you. Wu Xingtian suddenly revealed a kind smile after hearing this. He also understood that he had lost his composure just now. Regardless of whether Wang Haoren could be of great help, it was already very commendable that he was willing to help the Fire Country. After Wu Xingtian responded to Yi Wuhan, he looked at Wang Haoren and revealed a kind smile. You are so young, but you're already a 6th Heaven Sage Realm cultivator. Among the young geniuses I have met, you could be ranked 3rd. No wonder Wuhan fell in love with you. Wu Xingtian's tone was full of praise. Apart from the danger of the foreign races, Wu Xingtian was very satisfied with Wang Haoren. He was more than enough to match his disciple Yi Wuhan. Without a doubt, The two young geniuses in front of Wang Haoren were Chu Tian and Yi Xiantian. Wang Haoren naturally heard the meaning behind the words, but he didn't explain. He just revealed an inexplicable smile. Thank you, Senior, for the praise. After chatting for a while, Wang Haoren and Yi Wuhan left the room and let Wu Xingtian rest. Yi Wuhan and Wang Haoren walked side by side in the base of the Flame Dragon Army. When they's eyes as groups and Yi Wuhan's SS eyes. Yi Wuhan had never walked side by side with a man before. Everyone seemed to have realized something from this. However, these Yin Dragon Army soldiers were even more envious. They felt that Wang Haoren and Yi Wuhan were a match made in heaven. They wished Yi Wuhan well in their hearts. None of them dared to provoke Wang Haoren. After all, Wang Haoren wasn't the main character. This kind of situation where he was looked down upon and then provoked had nothing to do with him. As Yi Wuhan walked, his head drooped. It was obvious that he had something on his mind. When they reached a place where there was no one around, Yi Wuhan suddenly said, If the foreign races really attack and it's a matter of life and death, don't fight them head on. If you can leave, you must leave. Do I look like such a coward? Wang Haoren asked with a smile. Yi Wuhan shook his head. You have Nanji, Su Wan, and that Qin Huaiman. If something happens to you, what will happen to them? What about you? Wang Haoren asked. I'm the current leader of the Yin Dragon Army. I will live and die with the Yin Dragon Army. Yi Wuhan's tone was resolute. Between Nanji, Su Wan, Huaiman, and you, who do you think I care about more? Wang Haoren suddenly asked, baffled. How would I know? Yi Wuhan shook his head. You're all equally important. No matter which one of you is in danger, I won't abandon her and escape alone. If those experts from other clans come and you die, there's only one possibility, and that's that they've stepped over my corpse, Wang Haoren said slowly. Hearing this, Yi Wuhan was startled. She was extremely touched and couldn't help but throw herself into Wang Haoren's embrace. Ding! Female supporting lead Yi Wuhan's favorability towards the host has increased by 10. Current favorability is 90 until death. With your words, even if I die now, I won't have come to this world in vain. Yi Wuhan's voice was extremely gentle. No, if that's really the case, I might feel very regretful. Wang Haoren suddenly sighed. Why? Yi Wuhan raised her head slightly and looked at him. Wang Haoren whispered something into Yi Wuhan's ear. Yi Wuhan's face gradually turned red, and the expression in her eyes changed. Not only will you feel regretful, I might also feel regretful. When Yi Wuhan said this, her face turned even redder. There's no need to feel regretful. Since the foreign races haven't come yet, should we make up for this regret in advance? Wang Haoren said. When talking about this topic, Yi Wuhan was no different from a little girl. She was extremely shy. After struggling in her heart for a while, Yi Wuhan said in a voice as soft as a mosquito, When? Tell me. There's no time like the present, Wang Haoren said. Yi Wuhan nodded. Come find me at night. Why at night? Let's do it now, Wang Haoren suggested. It's still daytime. Yi Wuhan said, in surprise. Those foreign races are eyeing us covetously. If we're late, there might be changes. Of course, the sooner the better, Wang Haoren persuaded. It's not too late. It's just tonight. There won't be any changes, Yi Wuhan said. It's really so coincidental. Those guys are preparing to come tonight, Wang Haoren muttered in his heart. However, he couldn't tell Yi Wuhan about this, because once he told Yi Wuhan, she would definitely tell him about impersonating Yagyu Ichiro. If Yi Wuhan knew, Wu Xingtian would also know. Before the battle between Chu Tian and Yi Fan, Wu Xingtian had discovered Yagyu Ichiro's aura, so he chased after him. If Wang Haoren told him about impersonating Yagyu Ichiro, Wu Xingtian would inevitably think that it was a trap. And the person who set this trap was Wang Haoren. Although Wang Haoren was a villain, he still wanted to maintain a glorious and magnificent image as much as possible. Naturally, he didn't want others to know about these shady things. Moreover, the reason why Wang Haoren revealed his Qi refining level 6 in front of Wu Xingtian was that he didn't want Wu Xingtian to be suspicious. Because once he revealed his foundation establishment stage, or even golden core stage cultivation, Wu Xingtian would easily suspect that Yagyu Ichiro, who had led him away, was an impersonator. Yagyu Ichiro's cultivation was considered very weak compared to other experts on the heaven list. With Wu Xingtian's cultivation, after discovering Yagyu Ichiro's aura, he immediately chased after him. If it was the real Yagyu Ichiro, he would definitely not be able to escape. After Wu Xingtian lost him, he had a puzzled look on his face. At that time, Wang Haoren was in the dark and saw Wu Xingtian's expression. Wu Xingtian already felt that Yagyu Ichiro's escape was very suspicious. Of course, Wang Haoren didn't want to reveal any information and let Wu Xingtian sense something. Chapter 731. Seeing that Wang Haoren was silent, Yu Wuhan thought that he was unhappy because of what she had said, so she comforted him. My heart is already yours, and it won't run away. Why do you have to do it now? Let's do it at night. Then I'll do as you say. Wang Haoren didn't insist. It didn't matter if it was earlier or later. You know where I live. I'll leave the door open for you. You can come over then. Yu Wuhan said shyly. She felt that she couldn't be calm in front of Wang Haoren, so she broke free from his arms and ran out of Wang Haoren's sight. At night, Wang Haoren didn't go to see Yu Wuhan as promised. It was not that he didn't want to, but once he went, it wouldn't be over in a short time, because Qian Zhenyi and the others had already started to take action. During this time, Wang Haoren had been in contact with Yu Wuhan, and he had asked her about the defense of the capital. Yu Wuhan was not wary of Wang Haoren at all, so she didn't hide anything from him. Wang Haoren knew how to sneak into the imperial capital without being detected by the imperial capital's defense forces. The defense force of the capital was a combination of modern technology and enchantments. If they didn't have special skills, it was very unlikely for foreign cultivators to sneak in. Qian Zhenyi could sneak in with his own ability, but other foreign cultivators couldn't. Relying on the information they got from Wang Haoren, the foreign cultivators successfully sneaked into the capital and came to the base of the Yin Dragon Army. Yu Wuhan lived in the base. After Wu Xingtian's mansion turned into ruins, she also lived here. Qian Zhenyi and the others hid their breath and waited near the base. It didn't take long for someone to approach. Qian Zhenyi and the others sensed that it was Yagyu Ichiro's breath. Soon, Yagyu Ichiro appeared in everyone's sight with a cloth bag in his hand. The cloth bag was round, and there was a faint red light coming out of it. Yagyu Ichiro was undoubtedly Wang Haoren in disguise. Wang Haoren came close to them and threw the cloth bag in his hand. The cloth bag drew a parabola in the air and fell to the ground, then rolled to their feet. Following this tumbling, the item in the cloth bag also emerged from within. Everyone saw a bloody thing. These people weren't easy to deal with. Smith was even more anxious to verify. He squatted down to take a look at his face. After checking, he heaved a sigh of relief and said happily, But Qianhe Zhenyi looked at Yagyu Ichiro with a strange expression. When? He's just a tool. There's no need to be soft-hearted. However, Lord Qianhe, don't forget your promise. Wang Haoren chuckled. Qianhe Zhenyi had no intention of fulfilling his promise, but he still said, Let's talk about it when it's over. Shorty, how long will it take for the poison to take effect? Smith urged. Although Smith was targeting Yagyu Ichiro, Wang Haoren didn't like this white-skinned guy and didn't want to answer him. Wu Xingtian, come out and die. Wang Haoren answered with action. Yagyu Ichiro's voice was amplified by spiritual qi. Qian Hajin and the others were shocked, but they soon realized that the poison in Wu Xingtian's body had taken effect. Otherwise, Yagyu Ichiro wouldn't have done this. But everyone thought Yagyu Ichiro was crazy. Knowing that Wu Xingtian was poisoned was enough. Why didn't he sneak in and catch Wu Xingtian off guard? Why did he have to make such a big scene? If Yagyu Ichiro hadn't brought Yu Wuhan's head here, everyone would have suspected that he had defected. Yagyu, are you crazy? Qian Hajin frowned and criticized. The other experts also chimed in one after another. A bunch of cowards. Wu Xingtian is weak. What's there to be afraid of? Wang Haoren snorted. Everyone wasn't happy to hear that. If it weren't for the special environment, they would have fought with Yagyu Ichiro. As the voice sounded, Qian Hajin and the others' positions were exposed. The Fire Dragon army was gathering here. Wu Xingtian, who was resting the base, was shocked. Yi Wuhan had just finished washing up and was quietly waiting for someone to come. When he heard the noise, he quickly put on his clothes and came out of the room. The master and disciple quickly bumped into each other. They looked at each other and saw deep worry in each other's eyes. The news of my weakness must have spread. Otherwise, these outsiders wouldn't be so arrogant and come here directly, Wu Xingtian said. Only a few people know about this. How could it spread? Yi Wuhan didn't understand. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. It's just that the news spread too fast. Wu Xingtian looked at Yi Wuhan and said, Master, are you suspecting me? Yi Wuhan was shocked. Why would I suspect you? I just want to ask you, other than you and me, who else knows about this? Wu Xingtian asked. Howard too, Yi Wuhan replied. Yi Wuhan replied. Then he said in an affirmative tone, but I believe that this has nothing to do with him. Wu Xingtian sighed and didn't argue with Yi Wuhan, because this kind of argument was meaningless at this moment. Wuhan, I may not be able to see you get married. Also, you have a heavy burden on your shoulders. You have to keep your life, Wu Xingtian said as if he was on his deathbed. Master, you should know me well, Yi Wuhan said with determination. Wu Xingtian sighed and didn't continue to persuade him. He just said, okay, let's go and see the 7 experts on the heaven list. The Fire Dragon army quickly gathered. Under the lead of Wu Xingtian and Yi Wuhan, they quickly came to where Qian Hejin and the others were. Looking at the Fire Dragon army around them, Qian Hejin and the others didn't care. The only one who was a threat to them was Wu Xingtian. When Qian Hejin and the others saw Wu Xingtian, they all felt that Wu Xingtian's spiritual qi was weak. But when they saw Yi Wuhan next to Wu Xingtian, they were shocked. Qian Hejin and the others subconsciously looked at the ground where the bloody head was. But there was nothing there, not even a trace of blood. Qian Hejin and the others were stunned. Then they looked to the side and wanted to question Yagyu Ichiro. But Yagyu Ichiro was nowhere to be seen. Qian Hejin subconsciously felt that something was wrong. An ominous feeling rose in his heart, and he wanted to escape. But Smith and the others didn't want to leave. Although it was strange, Wu Xingtian's spiritual qi was weak. Yagyu Ichiro's cultivation wasn't high, so he couldn't help much. But there were 6 of them. If they worked together to deal with the weak Wu Xingtian and the Fire Dragon army, they would definitely win. Chapter 732. Wu Xingtian looked at Qian Hejin and the others. He knew that he couldn't get through this tonight, but he still maintained his composure. Everyone, how are you? But why is one person missing? Where is Yagyu Ichiro? Wu Xingtian scanned the group and found that one person was missing. Qian Hejin and the others couldn't answer this question, nor were they interested in answering. Wu Xingtian, your time is up. We're here to send you off. Smith sneered. I'm honored by your hospitality. Wu Xingtian smiled and looked at Qian Hejin. Congratulations, Your Excellency Qian He. What do you mean? Qian Hejin asked, puzzled. After I die, you will be the first on the heaven list. I believe no one on the heaven list can compete with you, Wu Xingtian said with a smile. Smith and the other experts looked at each other, their eyes shining. I know there's a saying in your fire country. It's called sowing discord. It's very appropriate to describe you now. Qian Hejin said, Your Excellency seems to be rather knowledgeable about our fire country's culture. I wonder if you would be interested to become our fire country's daughter-in-law. If Your Excellency is willing, this old man can make the introductions for Your Excellency. Wu Xingtian sounded like he was just chatting casually, not feeling like he was facing a great enemy. Wu Xingtian, don't waste time. No one can save you today. The Indian monk said, Don't talk nonsense with him. Let's get this over with. Smith urged. Although they were confident in their strength, this was the territory of the fire country. It was better to get rid of Wu Xingtian as soon as possible. Miss Qian He, I'll work with you to deal with Wu Xingtian. The rest will be left to you. Is that okay? Smith asked. Smith, Qian Hejin, and Wu Xingtian were all above the 10th level Saint Realm. When Wu Xingtian was strong, even if Smith and Qian Hejin worked together, they couldn't make up for the difference. But now, Wu Xingtian was weak. Smith and Qian Hejin were more than enough to deal with him. The other 4 were between the 5th and 10th level Saint Realm. They could easily deal with Yi Wuhin and the Fire Dragon army. No matter how they looked at it, it was a one-sided slaughter. But Qian Hezhini felt that something was wrong. Hezhini didn't respond immediately. The others nodded in agreement with Smith's arrangement. Miss Qianhe? Seeing that Qian Hezhini did not answer, Smith asked, I have no objections. Qian Hezhini had a bad feeling about this, but he still nodded reluctantly at this critical moment. Moreover, although Wu Xingtian's words were meant to sow discord, they were also the truth. With Wu Xingtian dead, no one on the heaven list could compete with her. As a cultivator, he yearned for the #1 position very much. Qian Hezhini was no exception. After the discussion, 6 boundless spiritual qi rose up, towering like a god. Everyone present, except for Wu Xingtian, felt their breathing stagnate. The 6 Heaven Road list powerhouses in front of him were all top powerhouses in their respective countries, just like Wu Xingtian in the Fire Country. Now that they had joined forces, this power was enough to make people tremble. To a certain extent, Qian Hezhin Yi and the others were gods. Just when Qian Hezhini and the others were about to make a move, an object fell from the sky and nailed in front of them. Qian Hezhini and the others paused and looked over, only to see a 3-foot-long sword upside down in the ground. At the same time, Wang Haoren walked out of the crowd on Yi Wuhin's side. Considering that you've all had a hard time cultivating, please turn back, or I'm afraid you'll die here today. Wang Haoren persuaded. Qian Hezhini and the others were stunned by his godlike appearance and temperament. Among them, Qian Hezhini's heart trembled. Ding! Congratulations to the host for meeting the supporting female lead Qian Hezhini for the first time. Super Peach Blossom Halo has triggered the first-class pledge to marry effect. Ding! Qian Hezhini's favorability for the host has increased to 80, undying love. Wang Haoren received 2 messages, but he did not show it on his face. When he met Qian Hezhini in Yagyu Ichiro's appearance, he did not meet the conditions to trigger the Super Peach Blossom Halo. Now that he met Qian Hezhini with his real appearance, he met the conditions and triggered the first-class effect of the Super Peach Blossom Halo. Everyone present was stunned for a while. Smith was the first to react. He looked at Wang Haoren with jealousy and said disdainfully, You're just a 6th-level Saint Realm. How dare you talk big like that? You have 1 second to think about it, Wang Haoren said lightly. Now, he had replaced Chu Tian and Yi Fan to confront Qian Hezhini and the others. According to the routine, Smith and the others would definitely mock him. However, Wang Haoren was not interested in listening to them. I quit. Qian Hezhini thought for a while and said suddenly. She already felt that today's matter was strange. When she saw Wang Haoren, she couldn't even muster up the intention to kill him. She was even afraid that Smith and the others would hurt him. When she heard Wang Haoren's words, she took the opportunity to respond. Miss Qianhe? Smith and the others were shocked. You're very wise. It's just that your answer took more than a second, Wang Haoren said lightly. When Smith heard this, he opened his mouth to say something. Wu Xingtian and Yi Wuhin also wanted to say something. Wang Haoren did not want to waste time. He grabbed at the air, and the long sword that was stuck in the ground flew into his hand. The long sword looked simple and unadorned. Wang Haoren swung the sword in the direction of Qian Hezhini and the others. These 6 top experts from different countries instantly exploded with blood mist, and then they fell to the ground with a loud thud, no longer breathing. The square was silent. You could hear a pin drop. Wang Haoren left. The sword that had just been used was also casually stabbed into the ground. It was an ordinary sword that the Flame Dragon army used for training. It was not even sharpened. However, the sword that Wang Haoren swung was not ordinary. Sword intent. This is sword intent. Wu Xingtian cried out in horror after he came back to his senses. Wang Haoren only used the cultivation of the 6th-level Sage Realm. It was not arrogance, but it was really enough. After getting Chu Tian's primordial sword, Wang Haoren began to merge it. The speed of merging the primordial sword was linked to the cultivation level. Wang Haoren was now in the golden core stage, so he was much faster than Chu Tian. Now, the merging progress was more than 10%. When emerging progress reached 10%, Wang Haoren gained a lot of benefits. This sword intent was comprehended from it. Although Wang Haoren only used the cultivation of the 6th level Sage Realm to use this sword intent, it was still very terrifying. Not to mention Qina Zheni and the others. Even Wu Xingtian at his peak would not be able to block this sword. After such a big thing happened, Yi Wuhan must have a lot of things to deal with. Wang Haoren knew that she was not free tonight, so he did not look for her. Instead, he went straight to Mu Nanji's place. In the middle of the night, Yi Wuhan contacted Wang Haoren and asked Wang Haoren if he had a Taoist name. Wang Haoren's first reaction was to say Ri, but he felt that this Taoist name was a bit too ridiculous, so he replied with Ji Tian. The two words Ji Tian came from the Ji Tian demon emperor, so Wang Haoren just borrowed it. The next day, Wang Haoren woke up between Biansuan and Mu Nanji. The mysterious organization released a message. It was a new heaven list. On the heaven list, the first place was Wang Jiqian, the second place was Yi Xiantian, the third place was Chu Tian, the fourth place was Wu Xingtian, the fifth place was Yagyu Ichiro, and the sixth place was Long Qianshan. After the sixth place, there was no one. Qina Zheni, Smith, and the others were nowhere to be seen. Those who did not know the situation were confused when they heard the news. Not long after the heaven list was updated, the Bai Shaosheng released another message. The title was, Wang Jitian killed the foreign race with a single sword strike. The 6 sages of the imperial capital returned to the Western Paradise. When the news came out, the world was shocked. Chapter 733. When Wang Haoren saw this message, he was also a little stunned. Then, he realized the reason behind it. The so-called Wang Haoren on the heaven list was actually Wang Haoren. No wonder Yi Wuhan contacted him last night and asked what his Taoist name was. Wang Haoren answered Yi Wuhan, Ji Tian. The two words Ji Tian and his surname, wasn't it Wang Jiqian? Just like Yi Fan's real name, his Taoist name was Xiantian, so he was also called Yi Xiantian. For example, the name Wu Xingtian was actually a Taoist name, not his real name. Thinking of this, Wang Haoren couldn't help but feel a little strange. Why was the word Tian so common among these Taoist names? With Yi Xiantian and Wu Xingtian in front of him, Wang Haoren even inadvertently said Ji Tian. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed that adding the word Tan made more sense. For example, some well-known figures in myths and legends also had the word Tian in their names or titles. For example, the great sage, heaven's equal and the prime of Tong Tian. Ding. The host has greatly affected the direction of the plot, intercepted the protagonist Yi Fan, and became famous. The reward is 20,000 villain points. Yi Fan protagonist aura -1,000, host villain aura +1,000. Ding. The host has greatly affected the direction of the plot, intercepted the protagonist Chu Tian, and became famous. The reward is 20,000 villain points. Yi Fan protagonist aura -1,000, host villain aura +1,000. While Wang Haoren was thinking, he suddenly received 2 messages. Wang Haoren wasn't surprised at all. In fact, he had expected it. With his golden core cultivation, he could easily get rid of Qianhe Zhen and the others. However, it didn't make much sense to do so. Wang Haoren spent so much effort to lure Qianhe Zhen and the others to the imperial capital. Wasn't it just to replace Chu Tian and Yi Fan to show off in front of others and get these rewards? Qianhe Zhen and the others should have been dealt with by Chu Tian or Yi Fan, but the two of them were tricked by Wang Haoren. The plot that belonged to them was replaced by Wang Haoren. Wang Haoren's attention returned to the new heaven list. There were 2 mistakes in the new heaven list. The first one was that Yagyu Ichiro had been annihilated and should be erased from the heaven list. In the second place, a person was missing from the new heaven list, a person that everyone thought was dead. However, Wang Haoren was not interested in correcting these mistakes. After the crisis of the foreign races was resolved, the imperial capital also relaxed a lot. Mu Nanji and Biansuan did not have to hide in the house anymore. The two of them excitedly dragged Wang Haoren to visit the famous places in the capital. Wang Haoren strolled around with the two of them for a whole day, and only returned when night fell. At the door, Yi Wuhan was waiting. Bien Suin and Mu Nanji greeted Yi Wuhan warmly. Their tone and attitude were much friendlier than before. Wang Haoran had already told them about his relationship with Yi Wuhan. The two of them did not object to it. In fact, they were quite happy. Mu Nanji and Bien Suin had been worried about their best friend. They were afraid that she would be alone for the rest of her life. Now, this worry was finally gone. Yi Wuhan chatted with Mu Nanji and Bien Suin for a while. Then, she said to Wang Haoran worriedly, something happened. Wang Haoran looked at her in confusion. Yi Wuhan continued. Qianhe Zheni and the others were all powerful experts of the Saint Realm. Although they are dead, my master and I think that we should give them the dignity they deserve. So, we're going to arrange for their bodies to be sent back to their hometowns. But somehow, Qianhe Zheni's body disappeared. I want to check the place where Qianhe Zheni's body was placed, and I didn't find any traces of it being moved. In other words, Qianhe Zheni's body was not stolen. Do you suspect that Qianhe Zheni is still alive? Wang Haoran asked. Yi Wuhan nodded. I know the severity of my actions. Don't worry, Qianhe Zheni is already dead. Wang Haoran smiled inexplicably. When Yi Wuhan heard this, he firmly believed Wang Haoran's words and heaved a sigh of relief. You too, let's not talk about such a serious topic. The moon is so beautiful. Let's go for a walk, Mu Nanji said with a smile. Yes, Sister Yi, we've taken him for a day. He's yours tonight. Bien Suin also smiled. Yi Wuhan's face flushed red, but he didn't say anything to refuse. Mu Nanji and Bien Suin watched her for a while before leaving. After Yi Wuhan was embarrassed for a while, the redness on her face faded a little. Then, she walked with Wang Haoran under the moon. After that, they returned to Yi Wuhan's residence. The two of them had talked about it before, and they wanted to succeed. Now that the crisis of the foreign race had been resolved, everything was logical. However, at the critical moment, Wang Haoran suddenly stopped. Come out, Wang Haoran said to the air. Yi Wuhan, who was waiting nervously and expectantly for something, was pulled back to reality. She hurriedly pulled the quilt to cover herself. In the dark corner of the room, a figure slowly appeared. The figure's curves were amazing, and it was obvious that it was a woman. When the woman's appearance entered her sight, Yi Wuhan was shocked, because the woman was none other than Qianhe Zheni. Yi Wuhan was on guard, but she soon realized that with Wang Haoran by her side, there was no need to be afraid of Qianhe Zheni. Didn't you say that Qianhe Zheni is dead? Yi Wuhan asked Wang Haoran in confusion. Qianhe Zheni is indeed dead. If you don't believe me, you can ask her what her name is, Wang Haoran said playfully. Yi Wuhan looked at Qianhe Zheni suspiciously. Under Yi Wuhan's surprised gaze, Qianhe Zheni suddenly knelt on the ground and said respectfully, Master and Mistress, I may he. What's going on? Yi Wuhan was astonished. I told you that Qianhe Zheni is dead. I didn't lie to you. Wang Haoran winked at Yi Wuhan. At that time, in order to solve the problem as soon as possible, he gave Qianhe Zheni 1 second to think. Although Qianhe Zheni chose to withdraw, his answer was a little late. Wang Haoran didn't want to go back on his words, at least not in front of others. Therefore, he hurt Qianhe Zheni and caused her to fake her death. Besides, he also told her something through voice transmission. Now, that Qianhe Zheni took the initiative to come here, he obviously agreed. The fact that she called herself a servant was the best proof. But she is Qianhe Zheni. Yi Wuhan stared at the woman for a while to confirm her identity. But after saying that, she suddenly realized something. She changed her words to Wang Haoran. You're right. Qianhe Zheni is dead. Don't worry about it. Let's continue, Wang Haoran said. Yi Wuhan was very happy, but looking at Qianhe Zheni kneeling on the ground, she felt very strange. You can leave now, Wang Haoran said to Qianhe Zheni. Yes. Qianhe Zheni responded respectfully, then moved back a distance on his knees and humbly stepped back. Chapter 734. Looking at Qianhe Zheni, Yi Wuhan sighed with emotion. Qianhe Zheni was ranked second on the heaven list, and he was respected wherever he went. If Yi Wuhan hadn't seen it with his own eyes, He wouldn't have believed that Qianhe could be so humble. He asked Wang Haoren in surprise, "How did you make Qianhe submit to you?" "She's afraid of my power," Wang Haoren said. Yi Wuhan felt that it wasn't convincing enough. The strong had their dignity. Yi Wuhan didn't believe that Qianhe was so humble because she was afraid of Wang Haoren's power. In fact, the real reason was more than that. Qianhe was Yi Fan's maid in the plot. In her character setting, she was eager to be controlled. With this character setting, it made sense for her to be Yi Fan's maid. However, Yi Fan hadn't even seen Qianhe yet. Wang Haoren replaced him and became Qianhe's master. "Is she really just afraid of your power?" Yi Wuhan asked. "Maybe she's convinced by my charm," Wang Haoren said with a smile. Yi Wuhan couldn't help smiling. But to be honest, Yi Wuhan also felt that it was more believable that Qianhe submitted to Wang Haoren because of his charm. She's an outsider after all. What if she's disloyal? Yi Wuhan said worriedly. "Don't worry. I'm not that stupid. I put a restriction on her. She won't do anything to harm me unless she wants to die," Wang Haoren said. Of course, Wang Haoren had already considered Yi Wuhan's worries. Besides, apart from this restriction, Qianhe's favorability toward Wang Haoren would not do anything to threaten him. "A good night is short. Let's not talk about this." Wang Haoren ended the topic. Hearing this, Yi Wuhan didn't ask any more questions. The anticipation and nervousness in his heart rose again. This time, there was no one to disturb them. Everything went smoothly. The next day, the sun was high in the sky. Yi Wuhan, who was sleeping soundly, was awakened by a series of knocks on the door. "Wu Heng, are you inside?" Wu Xingtian's voice came from outside the door. Yi Wuhan looked out of the window and realized that the sky was already bright. She hurriedly got dressed and went to open the door. "How did you sleep until now?" Wu Xingtian felt a little strange, because it was almost impossible for something like sleeping in to happen to Yi Wuhan. "Last night, I was too tired, so I woke up a little late." Yi Wuhan blocked the door, not letting Wu Xingtian in. Wu Xingtian felt that something was wrong. After carefully sizing up this disciple, he found that she seemed to be different from usual, but he couldn't pinpoint exactly what was different. Although Wu Xingtian was old and experienced, he wasn't proficient in everything. Yi Wuhan's subtle changes had touched Wu Xingtian's blind spot. This was because Wu Xingtian was an old bachelor who had lived for hundreds of years. "Go find Haoren and ask him to come over." Wu Xingtian didn't pursue the matter any further and got down to business. Seeing Wu Xingtian's serious look, Yi Wuhan hurriedly asked, "Master, what happened?" "Chu Tian woke up once last night. I even chatted with him and found out his name and background. At that time, his condition was not bad. But I don't know why, but today his condition suddenly worsened. He is on the verge of death." Wu Xingtian explained with a face full of worry. "My spirit energy is weak, and I really can't heal Chu Tian. So I want to ask Haoren if he has any ideas." "Chu Tian is going to die." Hearing the conversation at the door, Wang Haoren was shocked and lost his voice. Yi Wuhan's face turned red. Wu Xingtian's face was stunned, but he quickly understood something. "No wonder Yi Wuhan woke up so late, Master." Yi Wuhan was like a child who made a mistake at this moment. Wu Xingtian didn't mean to blame her, because he was now very satisfied with Wang Haoren. He was even afraid that Wang Haoren would run away. Yi Wuhan and Wang Haoren's development was so fast that Wu Xingtian was actually quite happy. "So Haoren is also here. That's good. It saves me a trip," Wu Xingtian said with a smile. Wang Haoren walked out of the room and came to the door. "Senior, did you just say that Chu Tian is going to die?" Wang Haoren felt that he had heard wrongly, so he asked again. When he took Chu Tian's Hongmeng sword, he also went to see Chu Tian. At that time, Chu Tian's injuries were stabilized by Wu Xingtian, and the possibility of it worsening was not big. This Chu Tian is so young and already has such a cultivation. If he dies, it would be a pity. But I really can't do anything now, so I want to ask Haoren if you have any way to save him. Wu Xingtian said, "Senior, you must be joking. How can I save him?" Wang Haoren shrugged. "Haoren, you're too humble. With your 6th level Sage Realm cultivation, you killed 6 sages on the heaven list with 1 sword. I believe it won't be difficult for you to save Chu Tian, Wu Xingtian said. Wang Haoren couldn't help but be a little speechless. Wu Xingtian had underestimated him before, but now he trusted him so much. It seemed like killing 6 sages on the heaven list with one sword had a big impact on Wu Xingtian. But to be precise, Wu Xingtian had actually underestimated Wang Haoren. Wang Haoren didn't reject immediately, but said that he would go and take a look first. Under Wu Xingtian's lead, Wang Haoren came to Chu Tian's room. Chu Tian was in a coma, completely unconscious. Wang Haoren sat by the bed and took Chu Tian's pulse. Soon, he found that the backlash from the Hongmeng's sword in his body had erupted again. Originally, Wu Xingtian had already suppressed the power of the backlash. Logically speaking, the possibility of it erupting again was very small. Chu Tian's situation was obviously bad luck. It seemed that after Chu Tian lost the protagonist's halo, he didn't have the protection of luck. He was really unlucky. In other words, Chu Tian was suffering from the backlash of luck. Haoren, can you save him? Wu Xingtian asked. Wang Haoren sighed and shook his head. In fact, he could save him, but he didn't want to. As a natural enemy, after Wang Haoren seized the Hongmeng's sword, he didn't go crazy and kill Chu Tian. It was already very kind of him. How could he save Chu Tian? Wang Haoren was not a kind person. Wu Xingtian saw Wang Haoren shaking his head and couldn't help but sigh. He mourned for Chu Tian, but it didn't take long for this feeling to dissipate. Wu Xingtian and Chu Tian were just strangers. When he saved Chu Tian, he wanted to leave a glimmer of hope for the Fire Country. But now that Wang Haoren was here, the worry in Wu Xingtian's heart was completely gone. Now, for Wu Xingtian, the most important thing was to go into seclusion to break through the limit. On the other side, after Yi Fan went into seclusion for a while, his injuries had improved a lot. Remembering the agreement with Wu Xingtian, he came out to check on the situation. When he learned that the 6 sages on the heaven list were dead and the updated heaven list, he frowned. Chapter 735. The main reason why Yi Fan had agreed to Wu Xingtian's request was that he wanted to make a name for himself by stepping on the heaven roll. But now his plan was completely ruined. Wang Jitian had accomplished what Yi Fan had wanted to do. Yi Fan sighed and wanted to do something else. He wanted to find the lunatic who had fought him. Yi Fan wanted to do 2 things. First, he wanted to find out why the lunatic wanted to kill him. Second, he wanted to steal the lunatic's Khanate cardinal treasure. Even if Yi Fan was a tribulation-passing celestial venerable, he would be tempted by the Khanate cardinal treasure. When Yi Fan saw Chu Tian's primordial sword, he wanted to steal it. However, although he had defeated Chu Tian, he did not have the strength to steal the primordial sword. More importantly, he guessed that he had been tricked. After getting injured, he naturally wanted to leave quickly and get out of danger. Now that Yi Fan's injuries were much better, he had this idea again. Yi Fan sneaked into the imperial capital to find out about Chu Tian, but he heard that Chu Tian was dead. He was sent to Chu Tian's house by Wu Xingtian's men. Yi Fan went to check Chu Tian's body and was very disappointed. The Khanate cardinal treasure was gone. Obviously, it had been stolen. Yi Fan was even more convinced that he had been tricked. Then, Yi Fan asked for other information. Wang Jitian, 6th Heaven Sage Realm, killed 6 sages with 1 sword. These information were quickly obtained by Yi Fan. Moreover, Yi Fan quickly determined that Wang Jitian was Wang Haoren, the person he was looking for, based on the information he gathered. Yi Fan had fought with Wang Haoren when he was on Fragrant Island. At that time, Yi Fan had determined that Wang Haoren's cultivation was between the 9th level of the Qi Refining Realm and the 10th level of the True Saint Realm. The so-called 6th Heaven Sage Realm was definitely a cover. Yi Fan could completely determine that he was no match for Wang Haoren. According to Yi Fan's estimation, Wang Haoren's true combat strength was probably comparable to a cultivator at the peak of Foundation establishment. Yi Fan knew that he was far from being able to do that. Moreover, Yi Fan even suspected that Chu Tian's Khanate cardinal treasure had been taken by Wang Haoren. Taking everything into consideration, Yi Fan temporarily dismissed the idea of seeking revenge from Wang Haoren. Isn't this person's cultivation speed a little too fast? Yi Fan was bewildered. The current environment of the cerulean planet was not suitable for training. Yifan knew that his cultivation speed was pretty fast. However, this Wang Haoren's cultivation speed was even faster than his. Could it be that Wang Haoren was also the reincarnation of an immortal venerable? However, even if Wang Haoren was the reincarnation of an immortal venerable, his cultivation speed shouldn't be so much faster than his, right? Wang Haoren, Wang Haoren, Wang Jitian. Jitian. Yifan muttered to himself as he searched through his memories for an immortal lord that matched Wang Haoren's name. When he muttered the two words, Jitian, he suddenly broke out in cold sweat. This was because Yifan suddenly thought of an immortal venerable, the Jitian Demon Emperor. The Jitian Demon Emperor's cultivation method was special. His cultivation speed was not limited by the thin spirit qi on the cerulean planet. If this Wang Haoren was the reincarnation of the Jitian Demon Emperor, then his cultivation speed could be explained completely. After coming to this conclusion, Yifan immediately felt pressured. In his previous life, he and the other four immortal venerables worked together to besiege the Jitian Demon Emperor and paid a heavy price. Even if they were at the same level, Yifan knew that it would be difficult for him to defeat the Jitian Demon Emperor, let alone if his cultivation was lower. Judging from the speed of Wang Haoren's cultivation speed, he must have started cultivating the Demon Emperor's inner scripture a long time ago. Yifan was only cultivating the ordinary qi drawing art. In the environment of the cerulean planet, his cultivation speed was very slow. It was far slower than the Demon Emperor's inner scripture. Yifan immediately had the thought of cultivating the Azure Thearch's secret art of longevity. Only by cultivating the Azure Thearch's secret art of longevity could he stand a chance against his opponent. According to Yifan's original plan, he would cultivate it only when he had completed the foundation establishment stage. But now, he had to bring the time forward. However, cultivating the Azure Thearch's secret art of longevity was not that simple. It required some very precious cultivation resources as support. In his previous life, Yifan only found these resources after leaving the cerulean planet. But Yifan knew that there was an alternate space on the cerulean planet. The size of the area was even bigger than the cerulean planet. There was a cultivation civilization with a long history there. In his previous life, Yifan discovered it when he was about to leave the cerulean planet. But he was in a hurry to leave the cerulean planet, so he just took a look and left. He did not explore it. Looks like I'll have to go to the holy region. But before that, I'll go and see Yuruo first. Yifan mumbled to himself. He had thought that it would be easy to make a name for himself in the world, but he did not expect to encounter so many setbacks, which delayed his original plan of meeting Feng Yuruo. To be honest, Yifan really missed Feng Yuruo. This trip to the holy region would take a long time. Yifan missed her so much that he naturally wanted to see her. Of course, Yifan did not plan to officially meet Feng Yuruo. He wanted to use another method. Feng Yuruo, who was far away in Xiongzhou, also missed him so much. It was just that Feng Yuruo was not thinking about Yifan. On this day, after class in the evening, Feng Yuruo was worried. She left the school and prepared to go to the nearby river to relax. Not long after she left the school, she saw an old man in a Taoist robe. The old man held a bamboo pole in his hand. There was a white cloth hanging from the bamboo pole. For words were written on it, "Immortal guides the way." Feng Yuruo could tell that this was a fortune teller. This old man had the demeanor of an immortal. He really did look like a fortune teller. Although there were many scammers these days, Feng Yuruo was not afraid of being bullied. "Fortune teller, are you accurate?" Feng Yuruo asked the old man. "Why don't you give it a try?" "You'll know," said the old man with a smile. "Can you predict everything?" Feng Yuruo was skeptical. "I wouldn't dare, but I can still predict most things. For example, your marriage," said the old man meaningfully. Hearing this, Feng Yuruo's eyes lit up. She was worried about this matter. However, Feng Yuruo was not so stupid as to believe whatever others said. After thinking for a while, she decided to test the old man's ability. "Fortune teller, tell me, what kind of person is my future husband?" Feng Yuruo asked. The old man pinched his fingers and said after a while, "Your future husband is the most dazzling person in the world. He is definitely not an ordinary person." After hearing this, Feng Yuo believed the old man a little. She mustered up her courage and continued to ask, "Then tell me, when will my future husband marry me?" The old man revealed an unfathomable smile and then slowly said, "The day he becomes famous will be the day he marries you." Yes. As soon as the old man finished speaking, his body turned into a stream of light and flew into the sky. Feng Yuo was left behind with a dumbfounded expression. Chapter 736. After flying for a distance, the stream of light landed in a deserted place. The stream of light landed and turned into the figure of an old man. However, the wrinkles on the old man's face were disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon, he turned into a young man. Immediately after, the old man pulled off the white beard on his mouth, revealing his full appearance. This old man was none other than Yi Fan. With his current cultivation base, he could only change his appearance slightly, but it was still very different from his original appearance. Yi Fan believed that the next time he saw Feng Yuo with his true appearance, she would definitely not recognize him. It's time to go to the holy region. After Yi Fan saw Feng Yuo, the yearning in his heart finally eased a lot as he muttered to himself. On the other side, Feng Yuo looked in the direction where the stream of light disappeared and was stunned for a moment. When she came back to her senses, she muttered to herself with some joy, "So this old man is a cultivator. Will his words really come true?" Yes. After Feng Yuo tested the old man with a question, she believed him a little, so she asked a real question. In other words, when would her future husband marry her? It was not without reason that she asked that question. Feng Yuo's worries were also related to this. I hope this old man's prediction is accurate. However, when will he become famous in the world? I hope it's soon. Otherwise, Feng Yuo's heart was filled with anticipation. She subconsciously touched her lower abdomen with her white and tender little hand, and a gentle smile appeared on her lips. In the imperial capital, after the crisis of the foreign race was resolved, Wang Haoren was free for a long time. During this time, Wang Haoren learned that Chu Tian's body was robbed by a mysterious person on the way back to the Seven Stars sect. However, after the mysterious person knocked him out, he did not take anything away. Wang Haoren could roughly guess that the mysterious person was Yi Fan. A Khanate cardinal treasure like the primordial sword was also extremely tempting to immortal venerables. It was enough to make two immortal venerables fight to the death. It would be strange if Yi Fan had the primordial sword's idea. However, Yi Fan could only think about it. The primordial sword was now Wang Haoren's. All in all, the harvest from this trip to the imperial capital was extremely bountiful. Now that Chu Tian was dead, the show in the imperial capital had come to an end. Yi Fan should have left the imperial capital. There was no need for Wang Haoren to continue staying in the imperial capital. Wang Haoren also had a plan for the next step. The spiritual qi in the secular world was really too thin. He had an innate spirit body that could automatically absorb spirit qi and convert it into cultivation. However, in the secular world, this innate spirit body was equivalent to a cripple. Only in the holy domain, where spiritual energy was abundant, could the innate spirit body be of use. Wang Haoren planned to go to the saint domain. Calculating the time, Su Xian should have been in the sacred region for some time, and his cultivation should have improved greatly. Compared to the secular world, there were many more opportunities in the holy region. Of course, Wang Haoren was not afraid that Su Xian would escape his control. After all, Su Xian's blood source was still with him. As long as he had the blood source, Wang Haoren could use the blood source curse to kill Su Xian at any time. In fact, Wang Haoren was more concerned about how many materials Gu Hongyi and Su Xian had found to reconstruct the body. After making up his mind, Wang Haoren, Mu Nanji, Bian Suan, and Xian Hezhini set off for Qingling Wuhan also wanted to go, but her identity was special, and she could not leave the imperial capital at will. The female lead who was with Wang Haoren was basically in Qingling now. After Wang Haoren returned to Qingling, He spent some time with the female lead who was in Qingling. Then, he went to Cheongzhou alone. It was midnight now. Wang Haoren quietly went to Fang Yurua's house. There was still light in Fang Yurua's bedroom. She was not asleep at the moment and was staring at a book in a daze. Wang Haoren deliberately exposed some of his qi and peeped at her through the window. Fang Yurua sensed it and immediately came back to her senses. She looked out of the window vigilantly and subconsciously circulated her spirit qi. Normally, Fang Yurua would deliberately hide her cultivation level. Now that she found a suspicious person spying on her, she inadvertently revealed some of her cultivation level. However, Fang Yurua's vigilance did not last for more than a few seconds and quickly dissipated, because Fang Yurua found that the qi was very familiar. Wang Haoren turned into a stream of light and flew into Fang Yurua's bedroom. Fang Yurua immediately threw herself into his arms. After not seeing each other for a long time, the two of them had a small interaction to relieve their longing. After their lips parted, Wang Haoren looked at Fang Yurua in surprise. Fang Yurua was indeed the only female lead in Yi Fan's plot. Her cultivation aptitude was really extraordinary. Now, she was already in the 6th level of the qi refinement realm. Compared to Wang Haoren and Yi Fan's speed, this was not considered fast. However, Fang Yurua had been staying in Cheongzhou all this time and did not have any opportunities. She only cultivated normally. Thus, reaching the 6th level of the qi refinement realm could be considered a rapid improvement. Furthermore, because Fang Yurua cultivated the 9 heavens ethereal mantra, she had an ethereal aura like an immortal if she did not hide her cultivation level. The future fairy Yorua's elegance could already be seen in a corner of iceberg. Wang Haoren's heart was moved, and he wanted to experience it for himself. However, Fang Yurua did not seem to be interested. What's wrong? Wang Haoren was puzzled. Fang Yurua blushed and whispered something into Wang Haoren's ear. Wang Haoren was stunned, speechless for a moment. When he reacted, he immediately sensed it and realized that there were 2 heartbeats on Fang Yurua's body. One was strong and powerful, while the other was subtle and difficult to detect. The former undoubtedly belonged to Fang Yurua, while the latter, although Wang Haoren had been looking forward to it, he was still a little dumbfounded when it really happened. Do you not like it? Seeing Wang Haoren remain silent for a long time, Fang Yurua touched her belly and said with a melancholic expression, "No, it's just too sudden." Wang Haoren smiled bitterly. "When I first learned of it, I found it very sudden too, but I accepted it later." Fang Yurua's face revealed a motherly glow as she asked nervously, "Will you accept it? Our love has blossomed. How can I not accept it?" Wang Haoren immediately expressed his stance, but he soon realized a problem. Due to the difference in age, there was no way he could give Fang Yurua a public ceremony in the mortal world. After some thought, Wang Haoren decided to go somewhere that was legal. And the place that was legal was naturally the Holy Region. After all, he had planned on going to the Holy Region anyway. There, it was very normal for a woman of Fang Yurua's age to have a few children. Then what do you think? Fang Yurua asked with some joy and anticipation. Wang Haoren took a deep breath and stared at Fang Yurua's beautiful face. "I'll marry you." Although it was just 3 simple words, Fang Yurua was so touched that her heart almost melted. Under such emotions, Fang Yurua could not care less and used the most passionate way to express her love. Chapter 737. After the storm, everything calmed down. A few days ago, I met a fortune teller who was also a cultivator. He told me that when you become famous in the world, it will be the time for you to marry me. Fang Yurua leaned her face against Wang Haoren's chest and said gently, "A fortune teller?" Wang Haoren was surprised. "Tell me in detail." Fang Yurua told Wang Haoren everything about her encounter with the old man a few days ago, including what the 2 of them had said. After hearing this, Wang Haoren could easily guess that the old man was Yi Fan in disguise. Fang Yurua described that when the old man left, he turned into a stream of light and flew away. With such means, he was already in the foundation establishment realm. In the secular world, there are not many cultivators like him. Yi Fan was in this realm. Before the old man left, he said, "When I become famous in the world, it will be the time for me to marry you." This tone was exactly the same as what Yi Fan had said when he came to Cheongzhou and secretly looked at Feng Yuruo at the school gate. However, Yi Fan was really a little careless. He actually did not notice Feng Yuruo's abnormality. With Yi Fan's perception, if he checked Feng Yuruo, he would definitely find that Feng Yuruo was no longer a virgin and was pregnant with a little life. Or to be more precise, Yi Fan was not careless. When he saw Feng Yuruo, he was a little dizzy and lost his normal judgment and perception. The reason why Wang Haoren felt this way was because he felt the same way. Feng Yuruo was a femme fatale who was too lethal to men. When they were with her, they only looked at her appearance and figure and did not pay attention to anything else. If Feng Yuruo had not taken the initiative to say it, Wang Haoren would not have realized that she had won the lottery. This fortune teller is really accurate. Wang Haoren suddenly laughed strangely. Of course, he knew that Yi Fan did not calculate Feng Yuruo's future marriage. It was not that Yi Fan did not want to, but that he could not. There were many types of people in the world. Some of them had very simple fates that could be easily calculated. Feng Yuruo, on the other hand, had great luck and limitless possibilities in the future. The trajectory of fate had too many branches and was very complicated. Tianjizi's ordinary fortune-telling technique would not work. Even the immortal cultivators who were adept at the great prophecy technique could not figure out the real trajectory of Feng Yuruo's fate. Yi Fan, on the other hand, didn't know any great divination techniques, so there was no way he could divine Feng Yuruo's future marriage. The prediction that Yi Fan and Feng Yuruo were talking about was actually himself. However, to a certain extent, Yi Fan was right. Wang Jitian had killed 6 sages with a single strike in the imperial capital, and his name had already spread far and wide. Now that Feng Yuruo was pregnant, Wang Haoren decided to marry her. Didn't this mean that Yi Fan's prediction came true? However, the man who married Feng Yuruo was not Yi Fan. The next day, Feng Yuruo led Wang Haoren to meet her parents. When her parents found out about Feng Yuruo, they couldn't accept it at all. Feng Yuruo also had to prove that she wasn't an ordinary person. Feng Yuruo's parents' worldview was refreshed. They looked at this matter in a new light and accepted it. After staying at the Feng family for a few days, Wang Haoren took Feng Yuruo and her parents to Qingling to meet Wang Xiang and Zhenli. When Wang Xiang and Zhenli learned that Feng Yuruo was pregnant, they were overjoyed. Wang Haoren mentioned going to the Wang family of the sacred region to marry Feng Yuruo. Wang Xiang, Zhenli, and Feng Yuruo's parents naturally didn't object. After discussing, Wang Haoren set a departure date, but then he began to have a headache. However, no matter how much he had a headache, he still had to face what had to be faced. Wang Haoren took Feng Yuruo to meet the female leads in Qingling, Tantai Yaoyue, Feng Xuansu, and the others warmly welcomed Feng Yuruo. When Wang Haoren mentioned his plans with Feng Yuruo in the near future, many vinegar jars were overturned. But fortunately, everyone was still very reasonable. Feng Yuruo's situation was special, so it was right for Wang Haoren to marry Feng Yuruo first. However, after Feng Yuruo made such a start, everyone had the same idea. Wang Haoren could understand something from the eyes of Tantai Yaoyue, Feng Xuansu, and the others. Don't think about using the box of safety pills in a room in the future. After staying in Qingling for a few days, Wang Haoren and Feng Yuruo set off. They first went to the sacred region to make arrangements. They planned to pick up Wang Xiang, Zhenli, and Feng Yuruo's parents after everything was settled. It was impossible for the close relatives of both sides to be absent for such a big event. And not to mention the close relatives of both sides, Tantai Yaoyue, Feng Xuansu, and the others had made it clear that they would also join in the fun. Wang Haoren, Feng Yuruo, and the maidservants Qina Zhini and Yun Churen successfully arrived at the Wang family. Wang Haoren told Wang Wanli about marrying Feng Yuruo. Wang Wanli had long been looking forward to Wang Haoren producing offspring for the Wang family. Naturally, Wang Wanli was in favor of it. Wang Wanli hurriedly went to choose the nearest auspicious day for Wang Haoran and Fang Yurao to get married. However, there were no particularly good days recently. The best wedding date was a month later. A month later was indeed a little slow, because counting the days, there might be some changes in Fang Yurao's stomach a month later. However, this was something that couldn't be helped. She could only start with the wedding dress when she got married. She could choose something that was looser. After the wedding date was set, Wang Wanli couldn't wait to announce the news to many forces in the sacred region. He announced that the young master of the Wang family would be marrying his wife a month later and invited all the major forces to attend the ceremony. Wang Haoran couldn't be bothered with the wedding and left it to Wang Wanli. Fang Yurao was taken care of and accompanied by Yun Churan and China Zhini, so Wang Haoran didn't have to worry about anything. Wang Haoran asked Wang Tong to inquire about Su Xian's whereabouts. A day later, Wang Tong sent back news. Su Xian had appeared in a place called Lingzhou Prefecture in the central region. There was a pagoda in Lingzhou Prefecture that was left behind from ancient times. The environment in the pagoda was extremely special and had the effect of tempering the body. It opened once a year and allowed 3 people to enter to temper their bodies. There were 3 floors in the pagoda, and the effect of each floor was different. It was divided into 3 levels. The effect of the highest floor was undoubtedly the best. The pagoda didn't belong to any of the 4 major forces because no one had the strength to monopolize it. The 4 major forces had quarreled about this before, but no one gained any benefits. Instead, they lost many people. In the end, the 4 major forces discussed and decided to have a martial arts competition every year. Each major force would send out outstanding young talents to participate in a martial arts competition. The first 3 could undergo body tempering in the pagoda. Somehow, Su Xian obtained a spot in a force and stood out in the martial arts competition, winning first place. Chapter 738. After Su Xian won first place, he was qualified to enter the highest level of the pagoda. Now, there were only 3 days left until the pagoda opened. After listening to Wang Tong's narration, Wang Haoran's expression remained calm the entire time. The reason was simple, because Wang Haoran had seen too many similar plots. What is the level of the Spirit State Prefecture in the central region? How do the 4 major factions of the Spirit State Prefecture compare to the Wang family? Wang Haoran asked Wang Tong, "Young master, there are 9 prefectures in the central region, and the Spirit State Prefecture is the weakest among them." Wang Tong suddenly paused and continued, "But this is relatively speaking. The 4 major factions of the Spirit State Prefecture are not weaker than the Wang family. In other words, among these factions, there's at least one that is comparable to the Wang family patriarch?" Wang Haoran asked in a different way. "That's right." Wang Tong nodded. Wang Haoran fell into deep thought after hearing this. Although Su Xian had obtained a spot to enter the pagoda, it was still a few days later. Wang Haoran could completely guess that there must be some twists and turns in the process. And the source of the twists and turns, Wang Haoran could even guess. Apart from the faction that gave the spot to Su Xian, the other 3 factions must be quite repulsed by Su Xian. After all, Su Xian was an outsider. Why would they let an outsider obtain the great opportunity of the Spirit State Prefecture? When Su Xian entered the pagoda, the other 3 factions would definitely stop him. But according to the plot, Su Xian could still enter the pagoda. But what did Su Xian have? With Su Xian's ability, it was impossible. He had to rely on external help. And this external help, Wang Haoran's first thought was undoubtedly Gu Hongyi. But Gu Hongyi was in soul form, and her true combat strength was only about the same as the Wang family patriarch, and she couldn't fight for long. The other 3 factions each had at least the same level of combat strength as the Wang family patriarch. So how could Gu Hongyi handle them? But it was definitely a good plan. Wang Haoran could only guess that Su Xian had a stronger helper. After coming to this conclusion, Wang Haoran felt that it was necessary to make a trip to Spirit State Prefecture in the central region. Although the water there might be very deep, they still had to go. Wang Haoran had already advanced from Golden Core Stage Level 1 to Level 3. Yi Wuhin and Qianhezhini had contributed a lot to this progress. However, in terms of true combat strength, it was far more than that. Wang Haoren had many powerful cultivation arts and immortal spells, the primordial sword, and the spiritual liquid in the chaos bottle to recover his MP. These factors allowed Wang Haoren to kill cultivators at the peak of the golden core stage in seconds. He could even fight with cultivators at the first level of the nascent soul stage for a while. Furthermore, if things went wrong, Xiao Chun could just hide in the heavens splitting pagoda. No one could do anything to him. Not to mention the strongest cultivator in the central region. Even if a tribulation passing stage, immortal venerable at the top of the universe pyramid came, as long as Wang Haoren hid in the heavens splitting pagoda, the tribulation passing stage, immortal venerable, would not be able to do anything to him. With these safeguards, Wang Haoren was naturally not afraid. Just as Wang Haoren was making a decision, something was happening somewhere in Spirit State Prefecture in the central region. Master, in 3 days, I can enter the Spirit Pagoda to cultivate my body. At that time, I can also find materials to reconstruct your body in the pagoda. In the room, Su Xian took a sip of tea leisurely and seemed to be talking to the air. As soon as he finished speaking, the ring on Su Xian's finger flashed, and then a red stream of light flew out and condensed into Gu Hongyi's beautiful figure in the void. I'm afraid it's not that simple, Gu Hongyi said. Master, you mean they will go back on their words? Su Xian's leisurely expression became a little less relaxed. You're still an outsider. The other 3 forces won't be so generous, Gu Hongyi said. But I must enter the pagoda to cultivate my body. Su Xian's tone was firm. Entering the pagoda to cultivate his body could speed up the regeneration of his severed limbs, and he could also obtain important materials for his beautiful master to reconstruct her body. Of course, Su Xian wouldn't give up. You must enter the pagoda, but with my ability, I can't give you that guarantee. Gu Hongyi wanted to reconstruct her body as soon as possible, so she couldn't persuade Su Xian to retreat. Is there any other way? Su Xian asked. I don't have any other way, but don't worry too much, Gu Hongyi said. What do you mean? Su Xian didn't understand. Have you forgotten about your little girlfriend in the central region? Gu Hongyi reminded. Su Xian's eyes lit up when he heard this. That little girlfriend came from a top force with a long history in the central region. As long as she was willing to help, the 3 opposing forces in the Spirit State Prefecture wouldn't dare to act rashly. However, Su Xian had a concern. Back then, she was forcefully taken away from me by her clansmen. Her clansmen looked down on me, so how could they allow her to help me? Su Xian sighed. Her clan members do not approve of the 2 of you being together, but you have underestimated her standing in the clan. If she insists on doing certain things, even her father, the clan leader, will not be able to restrict her, said Gu Hongyi in a mysterious manner. But what's the use if we can't reach her ears? Su Xian said. Actually, after we entered the central region, there was an expert secretly watching our movements. I was very worried at first, but gradually I realized that he didn't have any ill intentions. Gu Hongyi didn't answer his question, but when Su Xian heard these words, Su Xian somewhat understood. Central Region, Sovereign Manor. As the #1 prefecture in the central region, the supreme residence was the largest in terms of both size and density of spiritual energy among the 9 prefectures in the Holy Region. The cultivation environment here could be said to be the best in the entire sacred region. The force that occupied the Sovereign Manor wasn't simple either. The Sovereign Manor had 9 clans, all of which have been passed down since ancient times. The founders of the 9 clans were all cultivators who had reached the 60th level of the Saint Realm. In terms of cultivation realm, they were Dongshu stage cultivators. The people who had opened up the sacred region were the founders of the 9 clans who had reached the Dongshu stage. After the sacred region was successfully opened, the 9 founders chose the best cultivation place in the sacred region to establish their clans and spread their branches and leaves. After countless years of development, they evolved into the 9 clans. The 9 clans of the central region's Sovereign Manor came from this. The 9 clans were very simple in terms of their surname and the word clan. Jiang Clan. on a divine mountain. A girl in a light purple dress with wide sleeves was sitting cross-legged, cultivating. The girl's face was a little immature, but from the contours of her face and facial features, she already had the potential to bring disaster to the world. It wasn't hard to imagine that in a year or two, the world would have another beauty who could bring disaster to the world. At this moment, the girl in the middle of cultivation suddenly opened her eyes. The depths of her eyes were as calm as an ancient well, a little inconsistent with her temperament. "Didn't I tell you not to disturb my cultivation?" the girl said inexplicably. The air shook slightly, and a man in black appeared out of thin air. "Please forgive me, young master. If there was nothing important, how would I dare to disturb your cultivation?" The man half knelt on the ground and explained respectfully. Hearing this, the girl's calm eyes rippled a little, and some joy appeared on her pretty face. "Is there news of brother Su Xian?" "Not long ago, young master ordered me to find young master Su Xian. Fortunately, I didn't fail you and found him in the Central Region's Spirit State Prefecture. At that time, young master Su Xian was still injured and hadn't fully recovered." The man in black reported and suddenly stopped, not daring to continue. "Brother Su Xian was injured?" The girl's face showed obvious coldness. "How did brother Su Xian get injured?" "Young master Su Xian came for the Eastern region. I went there to inquire. Young master Su Xian was injured by the young master of the Eastern region's Wang family," the man in black said. "The young master of the Wang family." The girl's eyes surged with terrifying killing intent. Chapter 739. The black-clothed man, who was about 10 feet away from the young girl, could even feel this almost tangible killing intent. Although the man in black knew that the girl's killing intent was not directed at him, he still felt his scalp go numb. Although the girl's cultivation was far below his, the pressure from her aura was too terrifying. This was due to the pure Paragon bloodline that she possessed. The Paragon bloodline meant that she had the potential to become a 60th Heaven Sage Realm expert. The 60th Heaven Sage Realm was the level of the ancestor who founded the Jiang clan. Therefore, the clan had high hopes for the girl. The girl did not disappoint. After awakening the Paragon bloodline, her cultivation progressed at an astonishing speed. She was now at the 19th Heaven Sage Realm. Among the younger generation of the 9 clans of the Supreme Residence, no one could compare to her. Go to the clan and find 3 experts above the 20th Heaven Sage Realm. I want to go to the East region. The girl said coldly. The man in black understood what the girl meant, but he still tried to dissuade her. "Young lord, you better slow down if you want to destroy the Wang clan. Young master Su Xian is in trouble in the state capital of Qing." "What trouble is brother Su Xian in?" the girl asked. The man in black told the girl what had happened to Su Xian in the state capital of Qing. The girl was smart and immediately understood Su Xian's difficulties. "Find 10 experts between the 20th Heaven Sage Realm and the 29th Heaven Sage Realm. I want to go to the state capital of Qing." The girl changed her mind. Hearing this, the man in black clicked his tongue. 10 experts between the 20th Heaven Sage Realm and the 29th Heaven Sage Realm were enough to flatten the state capital of Qing. On the other side, after Wang Howren found out that Su Xian was in the state capital of Qing, he left the East region and rushed to the state capital of Qing as fast as he could. Su Xian had won first place in the martial arts competition and was now a popular figure. It was easy to find Su Xian. Su Xian was currently living in the force that had given him a spot in the martial arts competition. This force was the weakest of the 4 major forces in the state capital of Qing. There were few talents in the younger generation, and there was not a single young genius that could be brought to the stage. Otherwise, Su Xian would not have been given a spot in the martial arts competition. Of course, the most important reason for this move was that the leader of this force saw Su Xian's potential and wanted to bet on him. As long as Su Xian could grow, the future of this force would naturally be guaranteed. At the very least, it would not be swallowed up by the other 3 forces. It had to be said that the leader of this force had a good eye. Under normal circumstances, betting on the protagonist would definitely bring great benefits in the future. However, with the existence of an overly powerful villain, It was impossible for Su Xian to grow up normally. Wang Haoran came to a place near Su Xian's residence, where there was no one, and deliberately revealed a small amount of qi. With Su Xian's current cultivation, it was impossible for him to discover it. Only Gu Hongyi could sense it. Wang Haoran waited for a while, and soon he saw a red stream of light flying over. "Monarch, it really is you." Gu Hongyi's figure appeared, a look of joy on her face as she asked, "Why are you here?" Of course, Wang Haoran would not say that he was here to punish Su Xian. Thus, he said, "I heard about what happened to Su Xian in the state capital of Qing. I was afraid that the other three forces would deal with Su Xian and implicate you, which would cause you harm, so I came to take a look. Thank you for your concern, monarch." Gu Hongyi was touched. She hated that she was in her soul state and could not even give him a hug. "You are my concubine. How can I sit by and do nothing when something happens to you?" Wang Haoran said, "I've troubled you, monarch. Actually, nothing would have happened even if you didn't come." Gu Hongyi smiled. "Oh, what's the matter?" Wang Haoran asked. Gu Hongyi explained, "Su Xian has a little girlfriend from the Jiang clan, one of the 9 clans of the supreme residents of the central region. Su Xian's little girlfriend specially sent someone to secretly protect Su Xian, but that person has left. If I'm not wrong, he must have reported to Su Xian's little girlfriend. Once Su Xian's little girlfriend knows, she will definitely bring someone to help Su Xian." Wang Haoran nodded in understanding. He understood that Su Xian's helper was the female lead. "What's the name of Su Xian's little girlfriend?" Wang Haoran asked. "Jiang Qingkue." Gu Hongyi replied. "Jiang Qingkue." Wang Haoran muttered to himself as he memorized the name of his future concubine. Wang Haoran understood Su Xian's situation. Su Xian had not even touched Su Qingtong, who he had first met, so he definitely had not touched Jiang Qingkue. Wang Haoran naturally did not mind. It's great that Jiang Qingkue can help Su Xian solve his problem. Wang Haoran pretended to be happy. He then noticed that Gu Hongyi's figure was a little dim. "What did you do? Why did you consume so much spiritual energy again?" During the tournament, Su Xian's cultivation was slightly insufficient. "I used spiritual energy to help him raise his cultivation." Gu Hongyi explained. "Sigh, Su Xian's life is really good to have a master like you." Wang Haoran sighed, then continued, "Enter my immortal Emperor Pagoda to recuperate for a while. Seeing your spiritual energy so weak makes my heart ache." "Many thanks, Your Majesty." Gu Hongyi was delighted and naturally did not object. Last time, her spiritual energy was weak, so she had entered the pagoda to recuperate. Spiritual energy recovered much faster in the pagoda than in the outside world. After chatting for a while, Wang Haoran sent Gu Hongyi into the heaven-splitting pagoda. A wicked smile appeared on Wang Haoran's lips. Besides letting Gu Hongyi enter the heaven-splitting pagoda to recover her spiritual energy, he also wanted her to temporarily leave Su Xian's side, because only then could Wang Haoran carry out his plan better. After Su Xian entered the pagoda, his battle strength would definitely increase. Wang Haoran naturally had to stop him. Of course, Wang Haoran did not intend to stop Su Xian from the front. There were 3 factions in the state capital of Qing. With them around, Su Xian would not be able to do as he wished. What Wang Haoran needed to do was to stop Su Xian's helpers and help him. Gu Hongyi was one of them, and the other was Jiang Qingkue of the Jiang clan. There were still 2 days before the pagoda opened. There was plenty of time. Usually, the helpers of the protagonist would arrive at the crucial moment to solve the protagonist's problem. If Jiang Qingkue wanted to come to the state capital of Qing to solve Su Xian's problem, it would definitely be 2 days later when Su Xian was about to enter the pagoda. In other words, Wang Haoran had 2 days to stop Jiang Qingkue from arriving in time. Of course, Wang Haoran was not so foolish to use force to stop him. Although there was a high chance of success if he used force, it would be too strenuous. The central region was very large. The fastest way to come from a supreme residence was undoubtedly through the teleportation formation connected to the 9 prefectures. There were 3 teleportation formations in the state capital of Qing, and only one was connected to the supreme residence. to stop Jiang Qingkuei from arriving in time to solve Su Xian's problem. Tampering with the teleportation formation was undoubtedly the easiest way. Chapter 740. After Wang Haoren decided to tamper with the teleportation portal, he quickly came up with an idea. However, that was not enough. To Wang Haoren, stopping Su Xian from entering the pagoda was secondary. More importantly, he had to remove Su Xian as a great help. Jiang Qingkuei had a powerful background. If she continued to like Su Xian and protect him, Wang Haoren would be in big trouble. Wang Haoren did not forget that he had hurt Su Xian at the Flying Cloud Pavilion. If Jiang Qingkuei knew about it, Wang Haoren could imagine the consequences. Wang Haoren did not think that he could take on the Jiang clan alone. It was necessary to remove Jiang Qingkuei as a great help from Su Xian. Wang Haoren also thought of a way to do it. That was to take Jiang Qingkuei away from Su Xian. This was the method that Wang Haoren used the most. It was also the method that he was most adept at. Moreover, he also had the qualifications to do so. Jiang Qingkuei was already in love with Su Xian. The Super Peach Blossom Halo was not effective. However, the active skill of the Charm Halo could make Jiang Qingkuei fall in love with someone else. However, the 30% probability was not very high. The probability of failure was much higher. However, it was not a big problem. He just had to spend more villain points. Wang Haoren communicated with the system and spent 100,000 villain points in the store to exchange for a luck amplification card. After using the luck amplification card, Wang Haoren could become God of Luck. As long as it was something related to luck, Wang Haoren could get the best results. The amplification card only lasted for a minute, but it was enough. He just had to use it when the time came. After sorting out his thoughts, Wang Haoren secretly tampered with the teleportation portal that was connected to the supreme residence in the state capital of Qing. At the teleportation array, there were powerful guards who maintained the normal operation of the teleportation array. But the strength of these guards was far worse than Wang Haoren's. If Wang Haoren wanted to do something, they wouldn't be able to find out. Time quietly passed, and 2 days later, within the borders of the supreme residence, at the teleportation portal that connected to the state capital of Qing, 10 experts from the 20th heaven to the 29th heaven true Saint Realm were gathered here. The auras of these 10 Saint Realm experts were so deep that it made one's heart tremble. In front of the 10 Saint Realm experts was a young woman in purple. Inside the supreme residence, there were many other forces. Most of these forces were vassals of the 9 clans. The city that was connected to the teleportation formation of the state capital of Qing was managed by a force that was attached to the Jiang clan. With the arrival of this group of people, the surrounding people all looked over and discussed in low voices. 10 experts in the 20th level of the Sage Realm. What a big move. Which clan do they belong to? Do you see the girl at the front? That's the young master of the Jiang clan, Jiang Qingkuei. Oh, it's the Jiang clan. Someone suddenly realized. I've heard that the young master of the Jiang clan, Jiang Qingkuei, has the talent to cause the downfall of a city. Shallow. Jiang Qingkuei's most dazzling aspect is not her appearance. Haven't you heard? She has awakened the bloodline of the Supreme Being. Her potential is limitless. The bloodline of the Supreme Being. That's something from the legends. I wonder which man will benefit from a girl like Jiang Qingkuei in the future. Needless to say, it must be the son of the heavens in the vast land of the holy region. He can't be an ordinary person. Speaking of which, why are they here? Who knows? But if they want to use the teleportation formation to get to the state capital of Qing, they won't be able to get there anytime soon. Many people around were sizing up Jiang Qingkuei. Jiang Qingkuei was already used to the feeling of being the center of attention. She didn't care at all. She only wanted to get to the state capital of Qing to save brother Su Xian. She didn't care about anything else. However, after waiting for a while near the teleportation formation, her subordinate came to report. Young master, there seems to be a problem with the teleportation formation in the state capital of Qing. It's currently under repair. I'm afraid we'll have to wait for a while. How long do we have to wait? Jiang Qingkuei frowned and asked. This Depends on how long it will take for the teleportation formation in the state capital of Qing to be repaired, her subordinate said nervously. Hearing this, Jiang Qingkui's face turned cold. The teleportation formation was connected to the node of the void space. If there was a problem with the teleportation formation, it was very likely that one would be sucked into the void space during the teleportation. There was turbulence in the void space. Even a powerhouse in the 30s of the Sage Realm would be in great danger if he was sucked in, let alone a powerhouse in the 20s of the Sage Realm. If there was a problem with the teleportation formation, they could only wait. Originally, it would take less than 2 days to get here from the Jiang clan. However, when she was gathering the powerhouses in the clan, some of the old-fashioned elders in the clan found out. These elders stopped Jiang Qingkui many times and wasted a lot of her time. Otherwise, she would have reached the state capital of Qing by now. Contact the people in the state capital of Qing and ask them to repair the teleportation formation as soon as possible. If they delay my rescue of Brother Su Xian, I'll kill them all, Jiang Qingkui said in a low voice. Seeing Jiang Qingkui's expression, the other powerhouses were a little surprised. Jiang Qingkui's personality was very calm, and there were very few things that could affect her emotions. However, when it came to Su Xian, Jiang Qingkui's behavior seemed to be a little abnormal. The reason was that Jiang Qingkui cared too much about Su Xian. These powerhouses looked at each other and sighed inwardly. That kid named Su Xian was so lucky to be favored by Jiang Qingkui. Yes, young master. The subordinate trembled as he received the order and immediately went to carry it out. In a bustling ancient city in the state capital of Qing, some of the more powerful powerhouses were repairing the teleportation formation. Wang Haoran, the instigator of this, pretended to be a bystander and watched. When there were signs that the formation was being repaired, he secretly added fuel to the fire. It took a long time for the teleportation formation to be repaired. As a result, Jiang Qingkui was delayed for a long time. Wang Haoran knew when the pagoda would open and estimated that Jiang Qingkui would not be able to help Su Xian in time, so he stopped. Without Wang Haoran secretly causing trouble, the teleportation formation was repaired quickly. Not long after, the powerhouses of the Jiang clan, led by Jiang Qingkui, appeared in the ancient city. Wang Haoran looked into the distance and sized up Jiang Qingkui's appearance. He could not help but drool. Jiang Qingkui's appearance were at the level of Feng Yuruo, Feng Xuansu, and Tantai Yaoyue. She cannot be more perfect. However, compared to Feng Yuruo and the other two, Jiang Qingkui was a little immature. This was because Jiang Qingkui was younger than Feng Yuruo. However, it was this kind of youthful appearance that added a different kind of attractiveness. Wang Haoran could not wait to use the luck amplification card and pretended to walk casually. He slowly blocked the path of Jiang Qingkui and the rest. Kid, get lost. If you delay our young master, I'll take your life. One of Jiang Qingkui's subordinates shouted at Wang Haoran's back. Chapter 741. Hearing that, Wang Haoran stopped in his tracks, opened the fan in his hand, and looked back slowly. Wang Haoran had put in a lot of effort to meet Jiang Qingkui for the first time. He deliberately used spiritual energy to grow his hair. Now, he had long hair, was dressed in white, and held a fan in his hand. With his image, temperament, and dressing, it would not be enough to describe him as unparalleled in the world. The moment Wang Haoran turned his head, he communicated with the system. At the same time, a message came. Ding! The host has successfully used Charm Halo on the female lead, Jiang Qingkui, causing her to fall in love with someone else. Jiang Qingkui's favorability towards the host has increased to 80, unchanging feelings. Ding! The host has influenced the plot and gained 18,000 villain points. Su Xian's protagonist, Halo minus 900. The host's villain Halo plus 900. Jiang Qingkui's subordinate, who questioned Wang Haoran, was also stunned when he saw Wang Haoran's appearance. However, he was a man and had a normal sexual orientation. Naturally, he would not be bewitched. After being stunned for a while, he quickly came back to his senses and wanted to continue yelling at Wang Haoran to get out of the way. Kid, don't be rude. Before Jiang Qingkui's subordinate could finish, He was interrupted by Jiang Qingkue. The subordinate was dumbfounded. Wasn't the young master in a hurry to go to the state house of Qingzhou? She looked like she would kill anyone who stood in her way. What was going on? Did the young master know this person? He was not the only one who was puzzled. Jiang Qingkue's other subordinates were also puzzled. Everyone looked at Jiang Qingkue. Jiang Qingkue looked at Wang Haoren. She wanted to know Wang Haoren, but she was not good at dealing with people and did not know what to say to strike up a conversation. She only said to the subordinate who questioned Wang Haoren just now, "This road is not yours. If we can walk it, why can't others walk it? We can just take a detour." "Yes, young master." The subordinate nodded strangely. Jiang Qingkue paused for a while, looked at Wang Haoren, and left reluctantly. When Wang Haoren saw Jiang Qingkue's reaction, he could roughly guess that she was a shy and introverted girl. Since Jiang Qingkue didn't strike up a conversation with him, he could only strike up a conversation with her. "Miss, where are you going?" Wang Haoren asked. "We're going to the Heavenly Fire City in the state capital of Qing," Jiang Qingkue answered honestly. Wang Haoren had expected Jiang Qingkue's answer. Because the pagoda was in Skyfire City, if Jiang Qingkue wanted to help Su Xian, she had to go to Skyfire City. What a coincidence. So we're going the same way. I'm also going to Skyfire City. Wang Haoren laughed. When Jiang Qingkue heard this, a faint smile appeared on her face. She wanted to say that they should travel together, but she was too shy to say it. Wang Haoren could only say, "It is fate that brought us together. If Miss is willing, why don't we travel together?" "Brat, do you know who our young master is?" "How dare you?" The subordinate wanted to stop Wang Haoren. "Don't be rude." Jiang Qingkue interrupted the subordinate again. "Yes, young master," the subordinate replied sullenly. "Young master, we need to fly to Skyfire City immediately. I'm afraid we can't bring you along," Jiang Qingkue said regretfully. "Although my cultivation isn't high, I shouldn't be too far behind." Wang Haoren smiled and deliberately revealed some spiritual qi fluctuations. Jiang Qingkue and her subordinates immediately sensed it. 20th level Sage Realm. The subordinate of Jiang Qingkue, who had questioned Wang Haoren earlier, was shocked speechless. The 20th level Sage Realm corresponded to the Great Circle of Foundation Establishment. It was one level higher than Jiang Qingkue. Everyone in the Jiang clan thought that Jiang Qingkue was the most powerful person in the younger generation of the 9 clans. When they sensed Wang Haoren's cultivation, they were naturally shocked. When Jiang Qingkue sensed Wang Haoren's cultivation, she didn't feel jealous at all. Instead, she looked at Wang Haoren with a gentler gaze. "Young master, which of the 9 clans are you from?" Jiang Qingkue asked. "Oh, I'm not from the 9 clans," Wang Haoren replied. Jiang Qingkue and her subordinates were even more surprised. The 9 clans occupied the most cultivation resources and had the best cultivation environment. This person in front of them was not from the 9 clans, but his cultivation was so high. If he was from the 9 clans, what would happen? "Young master, where are you from?" Jiang Qingkue asked curiously. "Young master, there's no time to lose. We still need to go to Skyfire City to save young master Su Xian," a subordinate reminded. Jiang Qingkue suddenly realized, but for some reason, she wasn't so worried about Su Xian anymore. Of course, Jiang Qingkue still wanted to help Su Xian. However, the motive that drove her to help Su Xian was no longer love, but friendship. After being reminded by her subordinate, the group immediately set off. Wang Haoren, Jiang Qingkue, and the others went together. In the air, Wang Haoren pretended to be confused and asked, "What's your relationship with Su Xian?" Hearing this question, Jiang Qingkue was a little speechless and didn't know how to answer. "Su Xian is our young master's." One of Jiang Qingkue's subordinates wanted to tell the truth. Jiang Qingkue suddenly panicked and said, "Friend, Su Xian is my friend." When these words fell into the ears of these subordinates, they were so shocked that they couldn't circulate their spirit qi normally and almost fell from the sky. Jiang Qingkue's resolute look in the face of the elders in the 9 clans was still fresh in their minds. That attitude was as if she would fight anyone who tried to stop her from helping Su Xian. Everyone could see how much Jiang Qingkue cared about Su Xian. But what was the situation now? Jiang Qingkue's subordinates looked at Wang Haoren strangely and soon understood. The young master seemed to have fallen in love with someone else, and the speed of this change was terrifying. Sure enough, women were fickle, and even young girls were no exception. However, Jiang Qingkue's subordinates thought that this was a good thing. Su Xian came from a humble background, and his cultivation wasn't high. Being together with Jiang Qingkue was like a toad lusting after a swan's meat. Wang Haoren was different. He was young, and his cultivation was higher than Jiang Qingkue's. As for Wang Haoren's background, they didn't know for now. But judging from his noble temperament, he was definitely from an extraordinary background. If Jiang Qingkue and Wang Haoren got together, the elders in the 9 clans would not only not object, but would also raise both hands in approval. After all, among the younger generation of the 9 clans, who was at the 20th level of the Sage Realm, it was a good thing for Jiang Qingkue to have such a partner. Everyone was happy. On the way to Skyfire City, Wang Haoren and Jiang Qingkue found topics to talk about with Jiang Qingkue. But Su Xian, who was in Skyfire City, was currently in an abyss of suffering. The other 3 forces in the state capital of Qing had joined forces to cancel Su Xian's quota and forbade him from entering the pagoda to cultivate his body. Su Xian was obviously not convinced and argued with them. He even fought with them. The result was obvious. Su Xian spat out a mouthful of blood, but he gritted his teeth and held on, not letting himself fall. Master is nowhere to be seen, and Qingkue is not here. What is going on? Su Xian roared in his heart. Su Xian, are you still not convinced? In the open space in front of the pagoda, one of the leaders of the state capital of Qing looked at Su Xian with a cold smile. Chapter 742. Su Xian, a wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Forget it. The leader of the faction who had bet on Su Xian tried to persuade Su Xian. Su Xian was not stupid. He knew that if he continued, he would die. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and glanced at the other 3 leaders. Su Xian took out a token from his body. This was the pass to enter the pagoda. He was heavily injured. Even if he could enter the pagoda, he would not be able to train his body normally. There was no point in holding on to this token. I, Su Xian, will remember your kindness. The pagoda entry. I can return it to you, but who should I give it to? Su Xian decided to hand over the token, but he deliberately provoked them. When the 3 leaders heard this, they exchanged glances. The 3 of them were very tempted. They wanted to snatch the token and let an outstanding young disciple of their force obtain the best opportunity in the pagoda. Looking at their faces, Su Xian sneered secretly and suddenly said, "You're right." He suddenly said, "The token is here. Who wants it? Take it." With that, Su Xian threw the token in his hand. The eyes of the 3 leaders shone. Ding! The host manipulated the plot and caused Su Xian to miss the opportunity. Gained 10,000 villain points. Su Xian protagonist aura -500. Host villain aura +500. Wang Haoren, who was traveling with Jiang Qingkue and the others, received a message. Wang Haoren was relieved, and a smile appeared on his face. Jiang Qingkue kept sneaking glances at Wang Haoren. Seeing his expression, she found it strange and asked softly, "Why are you smiling, young master?" "I'm happy to be traveling with you." "I can't help but smile," Wang Haoren said calmly. Jiang Qingkue was shy. "Right, I almost forgot. Your name is..." Wang Haoren wanted to get closer to Jiang Qingkue, so he took the opportunity to ask. Although he knew Jiang Qingkue's name, if he said it out loud, it would make people suspect that he had ulterior motives. "I'm Jiang Qingkue. What's your name, young master?" Jiang Qingkue said. "Wang Haoren. What did you say your name was?" Jiang Qingkue asked in astonishment. "Wang Haoren. What's wrong? Is there something wrong?" Wang Haoren asked in surprise. "Is young Master Wang from the Wang family of the Eastern region?" Jiang Qingkue asked. "Exactly." Hearing this exact answer, Jiang Qingkue was finally completely certain that this was the person who had injured Su Xian in the Flying Cloud Pavilion. However, Jiang Qingkue did not show any signs of wanting to kill him. Instead, she seemed to be at a loss. Looking at Jiang Qingkui's continuous reactions, Wang Haoran roughly guessed the reason. Miss Jiang said just now that she and Su Xian are friends. I once had a conflict with Su Xian in the Flying Cloud Pavilion and injured him. Wang Haoran looked deeply at Jiang Qingkui. Miss Jiang, you must know about this, right? Okay. Jiang Qingkui nodded. Then, Miss Jiang, are you going to avenge Su Xian? Wang Haoran asked a more pointed question. Jiang Qingkui could not help but feel a little anxious when she heard this. She hurriedly replied, Young Master Wang, please don't misunderstand. Although Su Xian and I are friends, this is a grudge between you and Su Xian. How can I interfere? Oh, with Miss Jiang's words, I am relieved. If Miss Jiang really wants to attack me, then I will definitely die at Miss Jiang's hands, Wang Haoran said. Young Master Wang, you must be joking. My cultivation is not as good as yours. I am no match for you at all. Jiang Qingkui said, This has nothing to do with cultivation. If Miss Jiang really attacks me, I can only wait for death for fear of hurting a hair on Miss Jiang's head. Isn't that certain death? Wang Haoran said with a smile. Jiang Qingkui was stunned. Looking at Wang Haoran's handsome, smiling face, she only felt her heart pounding. For a moment, she even forgot to circulate her spirit qi. Her body suddenly descended. Wang Haoran's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He flew down and grabbed Jiang Qingkui's waist in midair. Miss Jiang, what's wrong? Wang Haoran pretended not to understand and asked. Thank you for saving me, young master. Jiang Qingkui said gratefully. She hurriedly hid her emotions and lied. I've been on the road for too long. I've used up too much spirit qi. I see. Then let me bring Miss Jiang along, Wang Haoran said. It's still not troublesome. Out of modesty, Jiang Qingkui instinctively wanted to refuse. But before Jiang Qingkui could finish, Wang Haoran circulated his spirit qi to the maximum. Their flying speed suddenly increased by several times. Su Xian should have missed the opportunity, but Wang Haoran was still somewhat interested in the opportunity in the Spirit Pagoda. Moreover, there was something Gu Hongyi needed in the Spirit Pagoda. Wang Haoran naturally wanted to get there as soon as possible. Otherwise, the Spirit Pagoda would close. Jiang Qingkui's subordinates listened to the conversation between Wang Haoran and Jiang Qingkui. The expressions on their faces were extremely interesting. Jiang Qingkui had previously planned to flatten the Wang family and tear Wang Haoran to pieces. But now, she was whispering sweet nothings to Wang Haoran, but they did not dare to interfere with their young master's relationship problems. They were only curious and expectant to see how Su Xian would react when he found out. Seeing Wang Haoran carrying Jiang Qingkui and speeding towards Skyfire City, these subordinates also sped up to catch up. In the sky, streaks of light flew past rapidly. Haha, I won by a small margin. The best spot for the body-tempering pagoda will belong to me. After a series of battles, the leader of a force had successfully obtained the token to enter the Spirit Pagoda. Just as he was about to express his joy, he suddenly sensed something and the smile on his face froze. In front of the Spirit Pagoda, a powerful expert with a strong cultivation base looked up at the sky. After a few breaths, more than 10 streaks of light appeared in his field of vision. Each streak of light carried an extremely strong fluctuation of spiritual energy. When Su Xian saw this scene, he seemed to have sensed something. His face, pale from his injuries, could not help but reveal an excited smile. The streaks of light drew closer and closer. Finally, in everyone's vision, they landed in front of the Spirit Pagoda and turned into more than 10 figures. The leader of the forces in the state capital of Qing could clearly sense how powerful this group of people was. Not knowing the purpose of their arrival, he felt a little uneasy. At the front of the group was a young man and a young girl. When Su Xian saw the young girl, he immediately wanted to call out her name. But after saying the word Qing, he suddenly fell silent. This was because Su Xian clearly saw the appearance of a young man beside the young girl. This young man was like an immortal who had fallen into the mortal world. When ordinary people saw him, they would easily have a good impression of him. But when Su Xian saw him, he could not wait to kill him. Su Xian, long time no see, Jiang Qingkuei said with a complicated expression. Seeing Jiang Qingkuei's reaction, Su Xian suddenly had a bad feeling. This was because in the past, Jiang Qingkuei would affectionately call him Brother Su Xian. Chapter 743. Su Xian was originally quite confident in himself. However, ever since Wang Haoren stole his woman, this confidence was no longer there. Su Xian could still clearly remember the scene of the three beautiful figures squeezing into Wang Haoren's arms in the main hall of the Yinhua sect. After such an incident, when Su Xian saw Jiang Qingkuei and Wang Haoren walking together, and Jiang Qingkuei's attitude of distancing herself from him, how could Su Xian not think about it? However, Su Xian still had some hope. He had been separated from Jiang Qingkuei for quite some time. Perhaps Jiang Qingkuei was a little stunned to suddenly see him, which was why she was like this. Moreover, Jiang Qingkuei was embarrassed to call him Brother Su Xian out of shyness in public. This was understandable. As for why Wang Haoren would appear beside Jiang Qingkuei, Su Xian also had sufficient reasons to explain. This Wang Haoren must have seen Qingkuei because he was attracted to her, so he shamelessly followed her. After sorting out his thoughts, the paleness on Su Xian's face faded slightly. Long time no see, Qingkuei, Su Xian also said with emotion. Then, he reminded her, the person beside you has a grudge with me. Why are you with him? We met by chance on the road. Jiang Qingkuei explained. I don't think it was a chance meeting. He deliberately approached you. He has ulterior motives for you. Su Xian exposed Wang Haoren's true colors in front of Jiang Qingkuei. He paused for a moment, then continued. There are some things that you may not know. He has already taken Su Qingtong and Hua Jiu away from me. Jiang Qingkuei knew about Su Qingtong and Hua Jiu's existence. After hearing this, she was stunned for a moment. She could not help but look at Wang Haoren, her eyes asking for confirmation. Qingtong and Jiu are with me now. However, the word taken is a little narrow-minded. The relationship between a man and a woman is purely consensual. Moreover, you're not married. Wang Haoren explained faintly. Then, he pretended to be suddenly enlightened. He remembered something and revealed, also, your fifth limb is missing. Which woman would be happy with you? Isn't it normal to leave you? Su Xian's body trembled. He never thought that Wang Haoren would say such words in front of others. Her face instantly turned red. Ding! The host has caused the protagonist, Su Xian's mentality, to be damaged. The reward is 8,000 villain points. Su Xian's protagonist aura minus 400. The host's villain aura plus 400. When the people around heard Wang Haoren's words, they all looked at Su Xian with strange expressions. Jiang Qingkuei was a little stunned. She didn't understand what it meant. Out of curiosity, she asked Wang Haoren foolishly, don't humans only have 4 limbs? Where did the 5th limb come from? Some people do. Wang Haoren whispered into Jiang Qingkuei's ear as he explained. Jiang Qingkuei's face gradually reddened at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing this, Su Xian gritted his teeth. He was afraid that Jiang Qingkuei would hold a grudge against him, so he immediately reminded her. We cultivators can still regrow a severed arm. This injury is nothing. It's nothing, but it will take at least 1.5 years to fully recover. Don't you feel embarrassed to let a beauty suffer for 1.5 years? Wang Haoren asked with a smile. Many people around them snickered. Some people seemed to understand why Su Qingtong and Hua Jiu left Su Xian. Su Xian didn't look at their expressions, but he could imagine how they were mocking and ridiculing him in their hearts just by listening to their laughter. In anger, he retorted to Wang Haoren. If Su Qingtong and Hua Jiu are willing to follow you, then so be it. I don't care about what I've used. If you're willing to take over, then take over. I'm clearly the first one. If this counts as taking over, then so be it. Wang Haoren shrugged. Su Xian's face stiffened. When he saw how clingy Su Qingtong, Hua Jiu, and Hua Feishuan were in the Yinhua sect, he guessed that something must have happened between them. But at this moment, when Wang Haoren mentioned it, Su Xian had a different feeling. Ding! The host caused the protagonist Su Xian's mentality to be damaged. Gained 8,000 villain points. Su Xian protagonist aura minus 400. Host villain aura plus 400. Wang Haoran smiled and said to Jiang Qingkui, "Listen to what this person is saying." He actually described women as things. "Qingkui, don't listen to his nonsense." "I didn't mean that." Su Xian was anxious just now and didn't notice the loophole in his words. After hearing Wang Haoran's words, he came back to his senses and quickly explained to Jiang Qingkui. Jiang Qingkui's face darkened slightly, but she didn't say anything. Su Xian continued, "Qingkui, other than Su Qingtong and Hua Jiu, there are many women around this person. You'd better stay away from such a lecherous person." Hearing this, Jiang Qingkui was very indifferent. "You also seem to have many women around you." Su Xian was speechless, and his face was a little ugly. Wang Haoran saw this scene and couldn't help but laugh. Su Xian was really too naive to use this point to attack him. Jiang Qingkui was the female lead of a harem. Her awareness was terrifyingly high, and she had no intention of monopolizing him. Jiang Qingkui clearly knew that Su Xian had many women. If she minded this, she wouldn't like Su Xian. Su Xian was a little exasperated after failing to attack Wang Haoran so many times. So he said, "Qingkui, you're my woman, and the man beside you has quite a bit of enmity with me. I hope you can stay away from him." Su Xian's words were equivalent to forcing Jiang Qingkui to make a choice. Su Xian was a little traumatized by the previous incident where he was poached. Su Xian was very worried that if Wang Haoran and Jiang Qingkui continued to interact, Jiang Qingkui would end up like Su Qingtong and Hua Jiu. Taking advantage of the fact that Wang Haoran and Jiang Qingkui had just met, it was best for Jiang Qingkui and Wang Haoran to draw a line. If it was any later, it would be very bad. Su Xian asked himself. As of now, his relationship with Jiang Qingkui was definitely much closer than Wang Haoran and Jiang Qingkui. It was undoubtedly the best time for Jiang Qingkui to make the decision. However, this was only Su Xian's wishful thinking. "Miss Jiang, didn't you say that you and Su Xian are just friends?" Wang Haoran seemed to have suffered a great blow. He looked pained as he asked Jiang Qingkui. Jiang Qingkui couldn't help but feel sorry for him. She hurriedly said, "Su Xian and I are really just friends, not lovers." "Qingkui, what did you say?" Su Xian thought that he had misheard. Jiang Qingkui's gaze left Wang Haoran's face. She felt a little conflicted, but it wasn't difficult for her to make a choice. Jiang Qingkui originally planned to find a suitable opportunity to talk to Su Xian about this. However, now that Su Xian had said it in advance, Jiang Qingkui had to make a choice in advance. Although doing so made Jiang Qingkui feel a little guilty and felt that she was a bad woman. Jiang Qingkui couldn't care less. What she cared about now was that Wang Haoran wouldn't feel sad for being deceived by her and even ignore her in the future. Chapter 744. Su Xian, it seems like you've misunderstood something. We've never promised each other anything. I've only treated you as a friend, Jiang Qingkui stated. Su Xian wanted to refute her, but he realized that he couldn't. Both of them had a tacit understanding and had never said that they liked each other, let alone that they were together. If they had to say that they were a couple, they could say yes, and if they weren't, they could also say no. It all depended on their attitudes towards each other. Jiang Qingkui's point of view that both of them were friends was valid. However, Su Xian was dumbfounded when he heard what she said. Ding! Host caused Su Xian's mentality to be damaged. Received 10,000 villain points. Su Xian's protagonist aura minus 500. Host villain aura plus 500. Qingkui, you must be joking, right? Su Xian refused to believe it. Su Xian, I've heard that you're in trouble, so I've brought people to help you. I'm only doing this because we're friends. If you slander my innocence, then we can't even be friends anymore, Jiang Qingkui said coldly. Hearing this, Su Xian finally gave up, but his hatred for Wang Haoran deepened by another level. Su Xian was unwilling to face the truth, but he knew what was important. Qingkui, you're right. We're friends, Su Xian said with a choked voice. Jiang Qingkui's expression softened a little when she heard that. She stole a glance at Wang Haoran. Wang Haoran's expression was normal, and he didn't look like he was in pain anymore. Jiang Qingkui heaved a sigh of relief. The surrounding people maintained the attitude of an onlooker, watching the dispute between these three young people. When the dispute was over, everyone came back to their senses. The three leaders of the state capital of Qing who oppressed Su Xian couldn't help but panic. Jiang Qingkui's group was too powerful. Jiang Qingkui had already said that she was friends with Su Xian. They had bullied Su Xian just now, so of course they were worried that Jiang Qingkui would take revenge. It's all a misunderstanding. This token is the proof to enter the pagoda. I'll hand it over to you now. The leader of the force who was holding the token hurriedly threw the hot potato to Jiang Qingkui. Jiang Qingkui took the token and looked at Su Xian subconsciously. Su Xian's eyes revealed a trace of longing. Although he was injured now, and the benefits of entering the spirit pagoda to train his body were minimal, it was still better than nothing. However, before Su Xian could speak, Wang Haoran spoke first to Jiang Qingkui. Su Xian is injured now, so it's not suitable for him to temper his body. However, this token cannot be wasted. Why don't you enter the pagoda? My clan has another body tempering method. This item is not of much use to me. Jiang Qingkui slowly shook her head. Wang Haoran had already expected Jiang Qingkui's answer. As one of the 9 clans of the Supreme Residence, the Jiang clan had plenty of cultivation resources. How could they be lacking in body tempering techniques? Moreover, the Jiang clan's body tempering technique was probably even more powerful than the one in the Spirit Pagoda. Does the Wang clan of the Eastern region have a stronger body tempering technique? Jiang Qingkui asked. I'm ashamed. The Wang clan of the Eastern region does not have a body tempering technique, Wang Haoran said. When Su Xian heard this, he had a bad feeling. Sure enough, Jiang Qingkui immediately said, Then I'll give you this token. How can I accept this? Wang Haoran looked stunned. You're right. This body tempering quota cannot be wasted. I don't need it. You're the most suitable one here, Jiang Qingkui said with a smile. Thank you, Miss Jiang. I will remember Miss Jiang's kindness in my heart. If Miss Jiang needs my help in the future, even if it's to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames, I will definitely not frown, Wang Haoran said solemnly. Who asked you to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames? Jiang Qingkui muttered to herself shyly. Young Master Wang, you're exaggerating. After that, she handed the token to Wang Haoran. Ding! The host has damaged the protagonist, Su Xian's mentality. Gained 8,000 villain points. Su Xian's protagonist aura minus 400. Host villain aura plus 400. Su Xian saw this scene and was very upset, but he did not object. He was not stupid. Judging from Jiang Qingkui's attitude just now, even if he objected, it would have no effect. After thinking about it, Su Xian could only fight for other things. Qingkui, these people hurt me. I can't let them go so easily, Su Xian said. How do you want to deal with them? From the perspective of a friend, Jiang Qingkui was still willing to avenge Su Xian. Let them compensate for resources and treasures, Su Xian said. Okay. Jiang Qingkui nodded. The other 3 leaders were ashen-faced. Looking at Jiang Qingkui and the others, they could not raise the thought of resisting. Since the 3 of you are not speaking, it seems that you have no objections. I'll make a list for you. Within 3 days, prepare everything on the list, Su Xian said. The leaders of the 3 forces reluctantly agreed. Wang Haoran stood to the side and did not object. He understood Su Xian's motive for doing this. Rebuilding Gu Hongyi's body would require a lot of materials. God knows how long it would take to find them. Now that there were 3 fat sheep waiting to be slaughtered, Su Xian naturally would not let them go so easily. As one of the 9 prefectures of the central region, the state capital of Qing still had a very deep foundation, even though it was at the bottom. The 3 forces had been in the state capital of Qing for many years and must have collected a lot of treasures and resources. They most likely had materials to rebuild Gu Hongyi's body. Su Xian's actions were to help Gu Hongyi. Wang Haoren also hoped that Gu Hongyi could rebuild her body as soon as possible. Of course, he would not stop Su Xian. After chatting with Jiang Qingkuei for a while, Wang Haoren entered the third level of the pagoda. Wang Haoren's current cultivation was already at level 3 of the Aurous Core stage, but increasing the strength of his physique was still very beneficial. Once his physique was strong, his battle strength would also increase by quite a bit. The most direct change was the increase in his resistance and physical strength. In the world of immortal cultivation, there was a type of body cultivator that specialized in cultivating the physique. The strongest body cultivator could even fight against the tribulation stage immortal supremacy. The 5 words, "One strength breaks all techniques," could be said to be a perfect representation of the core of body cultivation. Of course, this did not mean that cultivating the physique was more powerful than cultivating spirit chi. In fact, regardless of whether it was cultivating the physique or spirit chi, each had its own advantages. The best way was undoubtedly to cultivate both simultaneously. However, for most cultivators, cultivating both simultaneously would cause them to divide their energy. Thus, if they were not proficient in both, it would be more harmful than beneficial. However, Wang Haoren knew that there was a type of creature that could cultivate both simultaneously. This creature was the main character. Cultivating the physique and spirit chi could be understood as cultivating both physical and spiritual techniques. This cultivating both physical and spiritual techniques was actually one of the plots in novels. Wang Haoren could completely guess that Su Xian had taken this path. However, Su Xian's opportunity had been snatched away by him. However, one had to admit that cultivating both physical and spiritual techniques was indeed very beneficial. Wang Haoren decided to imitate the main character. Chapter 745. The so-called body tempering in the pagoda could be understood as forging iron, using the body as the iron to temper it. As such, the process was extremely painful. Wang Haoren spent 3 full days tempering his body on the 3rd floor of the pagoda. He almost collapsed, but in the end, he managed to hold on. Fortunately, the pain was not in vain. The improvement of Wang Haoren's physique was also very obvious. Even if Wang Haoren did not use spirit energy, his body alone was enough to fight against a Foundation Establishment Level 1 cultivator. With his powerful body and vast spirit chi complementing each other, his battle prowess also increased greatly. Because of the strength of his body, Wang Haoren's endurance had also increased. His endurance was not the same as when he was fighting with others. Instead, Wang Haoren was able to maximize the power of the primordial sword. If Chu Tian had such a body in the imperial capital, with the primordial sword, he would definitely be able to beat Yi Fan to the ground. Before Wang Haoren entered the pagoda, he could only hold his own against a nascent soul level 1 cultivator. After tempering his body in the pagoda, he could easily beat a nascent soul level 1 cultivator. This improvement did not seem very big, but in reality, it was very terrifying. After all, Wang Haoren's spirit energy cultivation was only at Golden Core level 3. If news of a Golden Core level 3 cultivator beating a nascent soul level 1 cultivator spread, it would definitely shock countless cultivators. There were still 2 days before the pagoda closed. Wang Haoren took advantage of this time to find what Gu Hongyi needed. After some effort, he finally found it. There was a soul calming pearl in the pagoda. If he wanted to reconstruct Gu Hongyi's body, this was essential. The soul calming pearl was the core of the pagoda. Without the soul calming pearl, the pagoda's body tempering effect would be greatly reduced. However, Wang Haoren could not be bothered with that. Not to mention that he was a villain. He should be unscrupulous when doing things. Even if he was the protagonist, Su Xian, he would do the same. After Wang Haoren came out of the pagoda, he went to inquire about what Su Xian had extorted from the 3 major forces. After learning about the situation, Wang Haoren couldn't help but rejoice. From what Su Xian had obtained so far, there was only one material left to reconstruct Gu Hongyi's body. He was very close to Gu Hongyi's rebirth. However, The last item was extremely difficult to find. Wang Haoren didn't know much about the situation in the sanctuary, so he wasn't sure if such a thing existed in the sanctuary. After giving some thought, Wang Haoren went to look for Jiang Qingkue. Jiang Qingkue was still staying in an inn in Heavenfire City, waiting for Wang Haoren to come out of the pagoda. When he saw Wang Haoren, he was overjoyed and hurriedly asked Wang Haoren how much he had benefited. Wang Haoren gave a simple description before asking about serious matters. "Miss Jiang, do you know where I can find extreme fire essence in the sanctuary?" Gu Hongyi was a fire cultivator. An extreme fire essence was essential to reconstruct her body and restore her former strength. "What does young Master Wang need extreme fire essence for?" Jiang Qingkue asked curiously. "A friend of mine needs it," Wang Haoren said vaguely. Extreme fire essence is a legendary item, and not even the Jiang clan has it. Jiang Qingkue pondered for a moment, before quickly continuing. "I don't know where to find extreme fire essence, but if there's a place in the sanctuary that has it, it would be the Golden Flame Manor of the Central Region's 9 manors." Wang Haoren fell into thought after hearing this. Jiang Qingkue's words were filled with uncertainty. However, Wang Haoren knew the plot well. If he didn't exist, Su Xian's plot would progress smoothly. Su Xian would still extort the 3 major factions to obtain what Gu Hongyi needed. After Su Xian successfully refined his body and obtained the soul calming pearl, only the extreme fire essence was left. Wang Haoren could completely guess that Su Xian would ask Jiang Qingkue about the extreme fire essence. Jiang Qingkue's words to Wang Haoren were most likely meant for Su Xian. Wang Haoren wanted to verify it, so he suddenly asked. After Su Xian extorted the 3 major factions and obtained the items on the list, did he come and find you? He did, saying that he wanted to ask me some questions, but I was afraid that he would pester me, so I didn't meet him and sent him away, Jiang Qingkue said. Hearing this, Wang Haoren was almost certain of his guess. It seemed that the next step would be for Su Xian, the coolie, to find the extreme fire essence. According to the plot, the extreme fire essence would definitely be found in the Golden Flame Manor. However, there was a problem at the moment. The Golden Flame Manor was only below the Supreme Manor in the Central Region's 9 manors. The Golden Flame Manor had many factions and countless geniuses. Su Xian had missed the opportunity to refine his body in the pagoda, so his cultivation progress was limited. Going to the Golden Flame Manor was just asking for trouble. In this case, it was very likely that he would not be able to obtain the extreme fire essence according to the plot. Wang Haoren pondered for a moment and quickly came up with a plan. Although this plan required him to pay a price, it was all he could do for Gu Hongyi's rebirth. Wang Haoren continued to chat with Jiang Qingkue for a while, then took his leave. After leaving the inn, Wang Haoren went to a secluded place and entered the sky-splitting tower. About 7 days had passed outside, but in the sky-splitting tower, this time was multiplied by 10. Gu Hongyi's soul had already recovered to its peak state. However, without Wang Haoren, Gu Hongyi could not leave at all, so she could only wait. Gu Hongyi did not blame Wang Haoren, but was worried that Wang Haoren had encountered some trouble. After seeing Wang Haoren, she asked for the reason. Wang Haoren explained that he had gone to the pagoda in Su Xian's place and gave the soul calming pearl to Gu Hongyi. After hearing this, Gu Hongyi was first overjoyed, but then she sighed for Su Xian. She felt a little regretful that Su Xian had missed the opportunity. Take this to Su Xian. Wang Haoren took out a small jade bottle and handed it to Gu Hongyi. Gu Hongyi was confused for a moment, but when she opened the bottle, she immediately recognized the contents. So many foundation establishment pills, and all of them are of perfect quality. Gu Hongyi exclaimed, "They were all refined by me. Take them to Su Xian. Although there is some enmity between Su Xian and I will not bicker with him on your account. You're my concubine, so Su Xian is also half a disciple of mine." Wang Haoren said seriously, "Thank you for your magnanimity, Your Majesty. I thank Your Majesty on behalf of Su Xian." Gu Hongyi bowed. Apart from the soul calming pearl, Su Xian also obtained many things from the three great factions of the state capital of Qing. Now, the only thing left to reconstruct your body is the essence of extreme fire. Wang Haoren said, I've already asked around. One of the 9 prefectures of the central region, the Golden Flame Prefecture, most likely has the essence of extreme fire. However, I'm afraid I'll have to rely on you and Su Xian to find it. I have other matters to attend to, so I'm afraid I can't go with you. Chapter 746. Your Majesty's matter is more important. Su Xian and I can handle the search for the supreme fire essence, Gu Hongyi said. Wang Haoren nodded and handed a jade slip to Gu Hongyi. If you encounter any trouble that you can't deal with, crush the jade slip and send me a message. I will immediately rush over to help. Gu Hongyi received the jade slip and remained silent, as if she was in a daze. Ding! Gu Hongyi's favorability toward Host has increased to 90 until death. Ding! Host has influenced the plot. Obtained 12,000 villain points. Su Xian's protagonist Halo -600. Host villain Halo +600. Wang Haoren inwardly rejoiced when he received the news, but feigned ignorance and asked Gu Hongyi, What's wrong? No one has ever treated me so well before. Your Majesty treats this concubine so well, and this concubine really doesn't know how to repay you, Gu Hongyi said emotionally. You're my concubine. It's only right that I treat you well, Wang Haoren said warmly. That's true, but if this concubine doesn't do anything, I'll always feel guilty, Gu Hongyi said. Do something? Wang Haoren was rather curious. Although this concubine is just a soul, there are still some things that I can do to repay your Majesty. Gu Hongyi shyly lowered her head. Such as? Wang Haoren was even more curious. Gu Hongyi was too embarrassed to say it directly, so she only said, Your Majesty, please close your eyes and rest. You'll know soon. Wang Haoren nodded and did as he was told. In any case, Gu Hongyi's favorability had reached 90, and she would not harm him. No one disturbed him in Heaven-Splitting Tower. Wang Haoren lay down to rest, and he quickly understood what Gu Hongyi wanted to do. Although Gu Hongyi did not have a physical body and was only a soul, she could still fuse with Wang Haoren's soul. Wang Haoren had a very novel experience. The pleasure this experience brought was no less than some other things. Moreover, after it was over, Wang Haoren could clearly sense that his soul had grown much stronger. This change was undoubtedly brought about by Gu Hongyi. The power of Wang Haoren's divine soul had reached the level of the peak of the Gold Course stage. The strength of one's soul brought about many benefits, the most direct of which was the improvement of one's perception ability. This kind of perception was extremely useful in battle. When Yi Fan fought Chu Tian back then, the reason why he was able to win was because of his soul perception. Wang Haoren was overjoyed. He really wanted to use this method to continue cultivating with Gu Hongyi. However, he soon realized from Yi Fan's memories that he would not be able to improve so much if he continued to cultivate with Gu Hongyi like this. It was because it was Gu Hongyi's first time that she had improved so much. Why are you looking at me like that? Seeing Wang Haoren open his eyes and look at her, Gu Hongyi was so embarrassed that she did not dare to face him. Wang Haoren did not immediately reply. Instead, he looked at her with a smile on his face, causing Gu Hongyi to feel so embarrassed that she wanted to crawl into a hole. Your Majesty, I will be leaving now, Gu Hongyi said in embarrassment. Wang Haoren withdrew his smile and warned, Be careful. Seeing this, Gu Hongyi's embarrassment gradually faded as she said reluctantly, I will. Please take good care of yourself, Your Majesty. Right, Su Xian extorted a lot of resources from the three great factions. I need some things to refine pills. Wang Haoren suddenly thought of something. Whatever Your Majesty needs, feel free to tell me. I will get it for you, Gu Hongyi said. Wang Haoren told Gu Hongyi what he needed before leaving the Heaven-Splitting Tower with her. Gu Hongyi stopped to look at Wang Haoren for a while, before turning into a streak of red light and flying away. On Su Xian's finger was the ring that Gu Hongyi resided in, which contained her spirit imprint. Using the guidance of a ring, Gu Hongyi soon found Su Xian in the territory of one of the four great factions of the state of Qing in Sky Fire City. "Master, where have you been these past few days?" Su Xian hurriedly asked upon seeing Gu Hongyi's figure. "I met an old friend and went to catch up with him." Gu Hongyi gave a perfunctory answer. She knew that Su Xian was biased against Wang Haoren and did not wish to argue with him. Hence, she avoided talking about Wang Haoren. Gu Hongyi's plan was to wait until she reconstructed her body before bringing Wang Haoren to formally meet Su Xian. At that time, if Su Xian was still unfriendly towards Wang Haoren, Gu Hongyi would have to display her master's authority. Regardless of how biased Su Xian was towards Wang Haoren, Su Xian should respect his master's husband. Master's old friend should be very strong, right? Su Xian asked in astonishment. "Of course he is." Gu Hongyi gave a simple response, before tossing the small jade bottle to Su Xian. "This is a top-grade foundation establishment pill that my old friend gave to you. After you consume it, it will greatly increase your cultivation." "There's such a thing." Su Xian was overjoyed. He hurriedly opened the jade bottle and took a light sniff, immediately feeling refreshed. After a brief moment of joy, Su Xian's smile suddenly vanished. "Master, a lot of things have happened while you were away. That Wang Haoren snatched Qing Kuei away from me." Su Xian began to complain. "Are you serious?" Gu Hongyi was surprised. "How could I lie to Master? It's the absolute truth." Su Xian's eyes were filled with resentment. "This Wang Haoren has snatched away my love time and time again. I have an irreconcilable enmity with him. What's yours will always be yours. If it's not yours, you won't be able to keep it." Gu Hongyi sighed. After the matter of Su Qingtong and Hua Jiu, Gu Hongyi guessed that Jiang Qingkuei was most likely one of the emperor's concubines from his previous life. Naturally, she would not blame Wang Haoren in the slightest. Instead, she would advise Su Xian, hoping that he would be more open-minded. The reason why Su Xian had said this was because he hoped that his master would see Wang Haoren clearly and even scold him. Gu Hongyi's reaction made Su Xian somewhat disappointed. However, Su Xian looked at the jade bottle containing the foundation establishment pill in his hand, feeling extremely grateful to his master, and did not dare to argue with her. Su Xian tossed these thoughts aside for the moment and told Gu Hongyi about the things he had extorted from the three great factions. Gu Hongyi had already known about it, but she still pretended to be surprised. Soon after, she said, "All that's missing now is the extreme fire essence. It's extremely difficult to find. Thankfully, when I met that old friend of mine, he told me that one of the 9 prefectures, Golden Flame Prefecture, might have the extreme fire essence. Master, let's hurry to Golden Flame Prefecture," Su Xian impatiently said. "Are you in a hurry to see that bad-tempered girlfriend of yours? Aren't you afraid of getting beaten up?" Seeing Su Xian's anxious appearance, Gu Hongyi seemed to have seen through him. "Heh, I really can't hide anything from Master. However, finding the materials to reconstruct Master's body is also very, very important. As long as Master has even a fraction of your former cultivation, I will not have to fear anyone in the Saint region." Su Xian began to look forward to the future. As he spoke, the image of a little beauty's irritable face surfaced in Su Xian's mind. Chapter 747. Su Xian's heart burned at the thought of this irritable beauty. Back then, Su Xian had spent a lot of effort to woo her. Because of this, Su Xian had suffered countless beatings. However, these beatings had not been in vain. More importantly, it was difficult to get close to her. Even if Wang Haoren wanted to get close to her, it was just wishful thinking. She was different from Su Qingtong, Hua Jiu, and Jiang Qingkuei, the 3 women who fell in love easily. "Master, there's no time to lose. Let's set off immediately," Su Xian urged. "There's no need to rush." Gu Hongyi stopped him and said, "I need the resources you got from the 3 forces. They are all in the ring. Master, feel free to take them," Su Xian said generously. Gu Hongyi's ring could be used to store items, and the space was not small. The resources that Su Xian obtained from the 3 forces were all in the ring. Gu Hongyi went to search and found the materials that Wang Haoren needed. Then, she found an excuse to leave Su Xian's sight and delivered the items to Wang Haoren. After Wang Haoren obtained the resources, he refined them into elixirs. After entering the golden core stage, Wang Haoren's spirit energy cultivation had increased tremendously, and the speed at which he refined elixirs was much faster. In less than a day in the outside world, Wang Haoren had finished refining the elixirs. That morning, Su Xian prepared to leave Sky Fire City in the state capital of Qing for the Golden Flame Prefecture. As he passed by a road in Sky Fire City, Jiang Qingkue and the rest came out of the inn. Su Xian and Jiang Qingkue met face to face. Su Xian's expression was extremely complicated when he saw Jiang Qingkue. At this moment, Wang Haoren had also arrived at the inn. Su Xian's eyes burned with anger. Wang Haoren pretended not to see Su Xian and said to Jiang Qingkue, "Miss Jiang, are you leaving?" "Yes, young Master Wang. I've been away for a long time, and I'm going back to the Jiang family." Jiang Qingkue was very reluctant. In fact, after solving Su Xian's problem, his subordinates had suggested returning to the Jiang clan. Jiang Qingkue was the future hope of the Jiang clan. Nothing could happen to her. If anything happened to her, none of them would be able to bear the consequences. However, Jiang Qingkue insisted on staying. The elders of the clan and Jiang Qingkue's father were extremely worried when they saw that Jiang Qingkue had stayed outside for too long. If Jiang Qingkue still refused to go, they might have to come personally. Jiang Qingkue had no choice but to leave. "Alas, I originally wanted to invite you to play in the eastern region, but it seems that this wish will not come true," Wang Haoren said regretfully. He handed a small bottle he had prepared to Jiang Qingkue. "It's my honor to know Miss Jiang. Let me give this to Miss Jiang." Jiang Qingkue thought it was just an ordinary item, but she still solemnly took the small bottle and treated it like a treasure. Her pretty face flushed a little. "Thank you, young Master Wang." After saying that, she removed the jade pendant from her waist belt and gave it to Wang Haoren. "This is for you, young master," Jiang Qingkue whispered. Ding! The host has damaged Su Xian's mentality. Received 9,000 villain points. Su Xian's protagonist Halo minus 450. Host villain Halo plus 450. Young master, this is the only piece of supreme grade spiritual jade in the Jiang clan. You can't give it away so easily. Jiang Qingkue's subordinates all became anxious when they saw it. What a scheming person. He exchanged a broken bottle for a supreme grade spiritual jade, Su Xian said sarcastically. When Jiang Qingkue's subordinates heard this and saw Wang Haoren's expression, they all changed a little. "Shut up, all of you!" Jiang Qingkue reprimanded her subordinates with a cold expression. Jiang Qingkue was a little protective of her husband. Of course, she would not allow others to slander Wang Haoren. Seeing Jiang Qingkue's attitude, her subordinates did not dare to say anything for a while. "Don't listen to their nonsense. I believe you," Jiang Qingkue said to Wang Haoren seriously. "Thank you for your trust, Miss Jiang." Wang Haoren smiled and continued. "But, Miss Jiang, don't you want to open the bottle and see what's inside?" Jiang Qingkue's beautiful eyes lit up. She originally thought that the small bottle contained something very ordinary, such as women's powder or makeup powder. But judging from Wang Haoren's tone, it seemed that the thing in the bottle was not ordinary. With doubts and anticipation, Jiang Qingkue opened the bottle. A whiff of elixir fragrance wafted out and instantly filled the area within a few miles. Above the mouth of the bottle, there was even a vision of 9 golden dragons formed by spirit qi. "This is a high-grade elixir." Jiang Qingkue immediately identified it and could not help but be shocked. Jiang Qingkue's subordinates, who had higher cultivation and stronger senses, also identified it. Although they did not understand the use of this elixir, from the fragrance and vision of the elixir, there was no doubt that it was a high-grade elixir. In the cultivation world, high-grade elixirs referred to 7th, 8th, and 9th grade elixirs. But it was a little different in the Holy Region. Perhaps the most powerful expert in the Saint level was only at the 7th stage of immortal cultivation, the Dongshu stage. Therefore, in the knowledge of the people in the Holy Region, High-grade elixirs referred to seventh-grade elixirs, which were also the highest quality elixirs in the Holy Region. Moreover, such seventh-grade elixirs were not available in 8 of the 9 clans. Among the 9 clans of the Supreme Residence, there was the Yao clan. This clan specialized in producing alchemists. Only the Yao clan had high-grade elixirs. Moreover, this high-grade elixir was refined by the ancestors of the past, not the current members of the Yao clan. The importance of elixirs to cultivators was self-evident. Jiang Qingkuei and her subordinates were naturally shocked when they suddenly saw the high-grade elixir. This elixir is called the 9-Dragon elixir. Cultivators above the 50th level of the Saint Realm can obtain the power of 9 dragons after consuming it. Wang Haoran gave a brief introduction. Although it was only a few words, Jiang Qingkuei and her subordinates understood how precious this elixir was. Dragons were terrifying creatures in the legends. The power of 1 dragon was terrifying enough. The power of 9 dragons was unimaginable. Jiang Qingkuei's father was a cultivator of the 50th level of the Saint Realm. If he consumed the 9-Dragon elixir, no one in the Supreme Residence of the Central Region would be a match for him, and the Jiang clan would become the #1 clan in a single leap. Jiang Qingkuei hurriedly sealed the mouth of the bottle to prevent the phenomenon from attracting more people's attention. "Where did you get this?" Jiang Qingkuei asked in surprise. "I refined it myself," Wang Haoran replied. "You're an alchemist?" Jiang Qingkuei found it hard to believe. "Don't I look like one?" Wang Haoran asked with a smile. Jiang Qingkuei couldn't help but smile. In her impression, alchemists were mostly old men. Wang Haoran's image really didn't match that of an alchemist. However, Jiang Qingkuei didn't doubt Wang Haoran's words, because that was the only high-grade elixir in the Yao clan. The other 8 clans roughly knew that it wasn't the 9-Dragon elixir. If it wasn't from the Yao clan, who else could it be other than Wang Haoran? This guy is an alchemist. Su Xian's eyes were filled with jealousy. Ding! Host has damaged Su Xian's mentality. Received 12,000 villain points. Su Xian's protagonist aura -600. Host villain aura +600. Young Master Wang, we're just friends. This is too precious. I really can't accept it, Jiang Qingkuei said firmly. If I only treated you as a friend, why would I give you such a precious gift? Wang Haoran sighed and laid his cards on the table. If I say that this is a betrothal gift for the Jiang clan, will you accept it? Chapter 748. Jiang Qingkuei's eyes widened when she heard Wang Haoran's words. She looked at him in disbelief as if she had misheard. However, Jiang Qingkuei's subordinates heard it clearly. In other words, they had long known that Wang Haoran was interested in Jiang Qingkuei. If it had been before, they would not have expressed their opinions. However, when they saw Jiang Qingkuei standing there in a daze without replying, they could not help but feel anxious. Young master, say yes. Say yes. Young master, say yes. Say yes. Say yes. One by one, they urged her. The Yao clan was the weakest among the 9 clans. This was because the Yao clan members were not good at fighting. They were only good at refining pills. However, the Yao clan status was the highest among the 9 clans. Pills were extremely beneficial to cultivators. Everyone wanted to curry favor with an alchemist. Because of this, the 8 clans maintained a good relationship with the Yao clan and dared not offend them. However, even in the Yao clan, there were no high-ranking alchemists. However, there was one before them. Moreover, he was very young. This kind of high-level alchemist, no matter to any of the 9 clans, was an absolutely delicious cake. These subordinates could imagine that if the other 8 clans knew that Wang Haoran was a high-ranking alchemist, the clan leaders of the 8 clans would fight to push their daughters into Wang Haoran's arms. However, Wang Haoran had clearly expressed his interest in Jiang Qingkuei. He was even going to give her betrothal gifts. How could they miss such a great opportunity? If the other 8 clans were to rope Wang Haoran in, the Jiang clan would definitely regret it. Although the Jiang clan was on good terms with the Yao clan, they would have to pay if they wanted the Yao clan to refine pills. Moreover, the payment would not be cheap. If Wang Haoran really became the Jiang clan's son-in-law, he would be one of them. Everyone in the Jiang clan would benefit from it. Jiang Qingkui's subordinates were, of course, anxious. Jiang Qingkui's face turned red when she heard her subordinates urging. "Miss Jiang, you mean?" Wang Haoran asked. Jiang Qingkui was extremely willing, but due to her reserved nature as a young girl, she said, "I need to go back and ask my parents about such an important matter." "Young master, there's no need to ask. The patriarch and his wife will definitely agree to it." "Exactly. That's right," his subordinates said one after another. Jiang Qingkui's face turned even redder. "I'll listen to my parents. If my parents have no objections, then I have no objections either." "Young master, how about this? A few of us will report back to the clan, and the rest of us will protect you. Young master, you and young master Wang can go to the eastern domain to have fun." One of Jiang Qingkui's subordinates, who had a higher prestige, suggested. Jiang Qingkui was outside. Although there was a little risk, they were more afraid. If Jiang Qingkui returned to the clan, Wang Haoran would be taken away by the women of the other 8 clans. Letting Jiang Qingkui stay by Wang Haoran's side was the best way. Moreover, ordinary people would not dare to touch the young master of the Jiang clan. With someone protecting her, there should not be any mishap. After one of them suggested this, Jiang Qingkui's other subordinates all agreed. They did not even ask for Jiang Qingkui's opinion. It was not that they disrespected Jiang Qingkui, the young master, but they were afraid that if they did not do so, they would be punished by the patriarch. The patriarch of the Jiang clan knew the importance of an alchemist. Moreover, Wang Haoran and Jiang Qingkui were both interested in each other. If the patriarch was here, he would definitely betroth Jiang Qingkui to Wang Haoran on the spot. After the discussion, 2 of them took the 9-dragon pill back to the clan to report. The remaining 8 continued to protect Jiang Qingkui. The old faces of Jiang Qingkui's subordinates were blooming with smiles. Jiang Qingkui stood in front of Wang Haoran. Although she insisted that she would listen to her parents, anyone with a discerning eye could see that she was very happy with it. When Su Xian saw this scene, he felt very upset. Ding! Host caused Su Xian's mentality to be damaged. Received 12,000 villain points. Su Xian's protagonist aura -600. Host villain aura +600. After looking angrily for a while, Su Xian could not stand this scene and left. Wang Haoran and Jiang Qingkui also left Sky Fire City and went to the East region. Jiang Qingkui's 8 subordinates followed at a distance and did not disturb the young man and woman. Wang Haoran and Jiang Qingkui did not deliberately rush. They went sightseeing all the way from Qingzhou Prefecture of the Central Region to the East region. When they arrived at the Wang family of the East region, half a month had passed. In this half a month, the relationship between Wang Haoran and Jiang Qingkui also improved day by day. Wang Haoran's cultivation also increased from level 3 of the Golden Core stage to level 4 of the Golden Core stage. At first, Jiang Qingkui was very reserved and did not agree to this matter. However, she could not resist Wang Haoran's sweet words and gave in. In this half a month, the Wang family had been preparing for the wedding. Although it was not time for the wedding, the whole Wang family was full of jubilation. On the second day after Wang Haoran and Jiang Qingkui arrived at the Wang family, the Jiang family patriarch, Jiang Qingkui's parents, came in person. After seeing Wang Haoran, they were very satisfied and agreed to the marriage between Wang Haoran and Jiang Qingkui. They even urged Wang Haoran and Jiang Qingkui to get married as soon as possible. It was as if they were afraid that Wang Haoran would run away. The status of the Jiang family patriarch was very low. Wang Wanli had to treat him seriously. Therefore, he discussed the wedding schedule of Wang Haoran and Jiang Qingkui with Jiang Qingkui's parents. After discussion, they finally decided to let Jiang Qingkui and Fang Yuruo marry Wang Haoran on the same day. Wang Wanli had this intention, but he was afraid that Jiang Qingkui would be wronged. After hearing Jiang Qingkui's parents say so, he naturally did not object. After the parents of both sides discussed it, Wang Haoran, Jiang Qingkui, and Fang Yuruo knew about it. Fang Yuruo and Jiang Qingkui did not have any objections, but Wang Haoran suddenly had a headache. Feng Xuansu, Tantai Yaoyue, and the others had talked to Wang Haoren before and made it clear that they would attend the wedding with Feng Yuruo. Feng Yuruo was more special. If Wang Haoren married her first, Feng Xuansu, Tantai Yaoyue, and the others would naturally not have any objections. But Jiangxin Kuei was different. She was not in love. If Feng Xuansu, Tantai Yaoyue, and the others came, wouldn't they be jealous? After thinking hard, Wang Haoren came up with a bold idea. Both were his own flesh and blood. It was not good to be biased. Since that was the case, he could only treat them equally. Marrying one was marrying. Marrying two was also marrying. He might as well marry all of them together. After making up his mind, Wang Haoren told Wang Wanli about this bold idea. Wang Wanli could not wait for Wang Haoren to marry all the women in the world so that the Wang family would have a better chance of flourishing. After hearing Wang Haoren's idea, he agreed wholeheartedly. It was just that the original wedding date might have to be postponed. The scale of the wedding between marrying multiple wives and marrying one wife would definitely be much larger. There were many things to prepare, and naturally, it would take more time. The original wedding date would not be enough to handle all these things. Chapter 749. No matter how busy the wedding preparations were, Wang Haoren did not have to worry about it. Wang Haoren went to the secular world to inform Tantai Yaoyue and Feng Xuansu about the wedding. Then he brought Tantai Yaoyue, Feng Xuansu, and the rest to the Wang family in the eastern region. After that, Wang Haoren turned his attention to the Golden Flame Manor. Wang Haoren asked Wang Tong to go to the Golden Flame Manor to find out if there were any young geniuses who had suddenly risen. To be more precise, Wang Haoren wanted to find out about Su Xian's situation in the Golden Flame Manor. However, Wang Tong did not find out about Su Xian, but he did. There was a young expert in the limelight in the Golden Flame Manor recently. For some reason, this young expert had a conflict with a family in the Golden Flame Manor. That family wanted to exterminate this young expert and sent many people to hunt him down, but to no avail. In the end, the young expert used a strange and terrifying art to wipe out the entire family. And this young expert's name was very interesting. His surname was Yi, and his name was Yi Xiantian. Now, he had another nickname, Killing God Yi. Yi Fan came to the Divine Region too. Wang Haoren was surprised when he heard the news, but soon found it to be reasonable. After Yi Fan suffered in the imperial capital, he must be eager to improve his strength. It was normal for him to come to the Divine Region. From Yi Fan's experience in the Divine Region, his strength had increased greatly. Otherwise, Yi Fan would not have been able to go from being hunted to killing the other party's entire clan. Wang Haoren could even guess what the terrifying art that wiped out the family was. This art was the Blood Origin Curse. There were too many opportunities in the Divine Region. If Yi Fan was allowed to continue growing, it would not be good. He had to punish Yi Fan. Emperor, Su Xian and I have found traces of the extreme fire essence, but we're in trouble. Wang Haoren had just made his decision when he suddenly received a voice transmission. The voice belonged to Gu Hongyi. Wang Haoren had already decided to go to the Golden Flame Manor. After receiving Gu Hongyi's voice transmission, he immediately set off with a group of powerful bodyguards. These bodyguards were not from the Wang family. Instead, they were top-notch experts from the Jiang family. As a high-level alchemist, Wang Haoren was also the future son-in-law of the Jiang clan. Jiang Qingkuei's father was afraid that someone would harm Wang Haoren, so he had specially sent the top experts of the Jiang clan to protect Wang Haoren. If Wang Haoren wanted to go out, they would naturally follow. The group traveled at full speed. After about half a day, they arrived at the Golden Flame Mansion in the central region. Wang Haoren found Gu Hongyi and Su Xian at a place called Crimson Flame Island in the Golden Flame Mansion. When Su Xian saw Wang Haoren, he was stunned for a while. "Master, so the old friend you spoke of is him?" Su Xian said to Gu Hongyi. When Gu Hongyi said that she wanted to seek help from an old friend, Su Xian had thought that it was some other expert. Who would have thought that it was actually Wang Haoren? Yes. Gu Hongyi gave a simple reply to Su Xian, then said to Wang Haoren, "The lava at the top of Crimson Flame Mountain contains the supreme fire essence. However, There are simply too many people who have their eyes on the supreme fire essence. Who are they? Wang Haoran asked. Most of them are first-rate factions of the Golden Flame Mansion. They are Impermanence Hall, Xianming Temple. Gu Hongyi listed a long list of factions. When Wang Haoran heard this, he directly ignored these factions. These local factions of the Golden Flame Mansion seemed powerful, but an opportunity prepared for the main character was not something that they could get their hands on. No matter how powerful these factions were, they were nothing more than bystanders. In fact, they would even be slapped in the face by the main character. However, due to Wang Haoran's intervention, Su Xian's storyline had undergone a huge change. The current Su Xian was still not strong enough to deal with the problem before him. Right, besides these factions, there is another person who is not simple. Gu Hongyi suddenly thought of something and said, "Who is it?" Wang Haoran asked. This person is young and has an ordinary appearance. His spiritual qi cultivation is not very high, but his spirit is very strange. When I used my spirit to spy on him, he easily discovered me and fought with my spirit. When I used my spirit to attack him, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. It was completely useless. Gu Hongyi said. When Wang Haoran heard Gu Hongyi's description, he immediately suspected that this person was the main character. He even thought of someone else. Is this person called Yi Xiantian? Wang Haoran asked. You know him? Gu Hongyi was surprised. Of course I know him. He's an old rival. Wang Haoran's words seemed to carry a deeper meaning. Gu Hongyi could vaguely tell. To be called an old rival by an emperor, he was probably the reincarnation of an immortal venerable. It was no wonder that her spirit attack was ineffective against him. This Yi Xiantian has extraordinary means. Not long ago, he used a terrifying art to eliminate a relatively strong clan in the Golden Flame Manor. From the information I received, this terrifying art should be a terrifying curse art. The attack is related to one's bloodline, Gu Hongyi said. It's a signature move, Wang Haoran replied indifferently. Wang Haoran already knew that Su Xian was here for the supreme fire essence. For Yi Fan to appear here, Wang Haoran could roughly guess his motive. Yi Fan had a very powerful immortal art called the Flaming Golden Eyes. When the flaming golden eyes were cultivated to the peak, the eyes could turn into two giant stars that could burn all the living beings in a star zone to death. The first thing to cultivate the flaming golden eyes was the supreme fire essence. Yi Fan wanted the supreme fire essence, so did Su Xian. It was obvious that the two main characters, Yi Fan and Su Xian, had clashed. This was the second time Yi Fan had clashed with the main character. Last time, it was Chu Tian, and this time it was Su Xian. The last time Wang Haoran faced this kind of situation, he had tricked Yi Fan and Chu Tian, making them fight to the death. The effect was very good. Now that Yi Fan and Su Xian had clashed, Wang Haoran was thinking of doing something. However, it seemed like he was missing a catalyst. Chu Tian had lost control because of Jiang Yuner. Who would be the catalyst to make Su Xian lose control? Gu Hongyi? However, Gu Hongyi's strength was not weak, and she was not a weak woman like Jiang Yuner. It was unlikely that she would be forced to do something. Most importantly, Gu Hongyi was in the form of a spirit. She did not have a physical body. Su Xian, you came to the Golden Flame Manor, but you didn't greet me. Are you itching for a beating again? Wang Haoran suddenly heard a woman yelling while he was in deep thought. He collected his thoughts and looked at the source of the voice. He saw a beautiful woman with a whip on her waist leading a group of people toward him. The beautiful woman had crimson eyes and crimson hair. She was wearing a crimson dress and looked like a flame spirit with a different kind of charm. Although the beautiful woman's tone sounded nasty, it had a different kind of intimacy. Wang Haoran immediately labeled this beautiful woman as the female lead. At the same time, he chuckled to himself. He was just worried that he did not have a catalyst, but now he had one.